going on, fellas? We are back. It is the To Be Fair show with
the G Shit podcast,
and this is Unpacked, episode 5. We had a good one last week, huh? I feel like we got a lot of engagement. So we're gonna bring y'all part 2 of the divide. FBA versus Pan-Africanism. You might throw ADOS in there a little bit. Yeah, I don't know. We're gonna get into these intros real quick, and we'll throw an opening question, and we're gonna just kind of hop straight into it. I think the content and the conversation speaks for itself. We don't really need like a big intro to it. We'll start with G.
Appreciate everybody watching. It's G, host of the G Shit podcast. You can catch me on all platforms. Follow GSHPOD wherever you enjoy your content. Ha.
Johnny.
What's up? It's your boy Johnny P, host of the To Be Fair show. We're glad to be back. Very engaging conversation last week. I learned a lot, so I'm here to, get my pencil and pad out again and learn some more. So thank you, boy.
Alex.
Yo, can y'all hear me good?
We got you. We can hear you.
Yeah, okay. Hey everyone. I'm Alex, resident resident African American. I don't know. You can catch me on GitHub pushing that code and doing all that other technical stuff.
Heard you. We got Trey. David, my bad. That's too early. That's too early. They ain't hear me. Go ahead. What's happening?
What's good? This is Trey. I'm just here to do my best to be a good ambassador for the foundation of Black Americans in this cultural revolution, and I'm excited for what's to come. So appreciate y'all for having me.
Word. So again, this is Unpacked, a deep dive conversation into really nuanced conversations, a space where we freely debate ideas in good faith, which means disagreeing with your perspective is not an indictment on your character. So all I ask is, fellas, we keep it ad hominem free, and comments, y'all can kind of do whatever y'all feel like. We love the engagement, but let me ask y'all this first question. Just getting into a little bit of some of the adjacent, or really this is a heavy FBA topic in conversation in general. As far as reparation conversation, right now, are reparations the most important thing for Black people, or are there other things that should be first on the agenda, i.e. values, education, financial literacy, et cetera, et cetera? What do y'all think?
Sure. I mean, if I jump out there and just say if reparations isn't the most important thing for Black Americans, then what is? And any way you answer that question, you can answer that. You can answer that with reparations.
You think so?
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Like financial literacy. If you don't have any money, then it's hard to be financial literate. Like some of us already are, but if they don't have any money, if they don't have any capital, then they can't really maximize on that financial literacy. We talk about land.
What about values? Do you think values would be fixed by reparation? So you don't think?
Not any more than any other group of people. I think our issues are exacerbated by poverty, because a lot of they have black on black crime. There's like a direct tie to poverty with that, and our lack of education. I mean, if your schools are in poor neighborhoods, then typically poor schools have poor performance.
So your take is pretty much socioeconomic wise, reparations would lift us from the spot that we're at, and that would kind of fix most of Black evils.
Exactly. Every culture where there's poverty, you'll find the cultural issues that they usually attribute to Black people. But it's not because we're like backwards or anything like that. It's because people are poor.
Gotcha. Johnny, how you feeling?
I mean, like I said, me and Trey kind of disagree on this a little bit. I think reparations are very important. I think it would be a great tool, but with any tool, you have to know how to use it. And I think like us valuing education and having the proper values would allow us to properly use said reparations. Now, I think it's owed, anytime if we're talking about like money owed and what comes to the table, I'm always going to be for us getting, what's owed to us in the capitalistic country society that we live in. Money is money, business is business. But as far as like what's most important for our success, even whether we get it or not, I think it comes down to like values and kind of actually defining what matters to us as Black people.
What do you mean? My bad. When you say values, that's just so vague, man. Like you said, you almost like you're saying we are like we're not like we're too backwards to know what to do with the money because like Native Americans are their values better than ours, or are the immigrants that are getting free housing and those credit cards? They have better values than us, or whenever all the white people originally when they came to America and they got all the free stuff, is it like values there? It's just like only when it comes to us, we talk about like those tropes that they put on us and they use that.
So let me ask you a question. You brought up Native Americans. Okay, go ahead, Johnny.
Well, like, because we've talked about the values of like the Black society and what's holding us back from getting there.
No, what
But
are our
outside of
values?
reparation, there are a lot of people that you said, the Candace Owens and stuff like that, where the values aren't there.
Oh, you say Black music is degenerate, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, there's cultural things about us.
Sexy Red is a revolutionary. I don't know.
Hey, I ain't gonna lie. If I can only give like a quick like sidebar right here, I seen Sexy Red in concert for the first time this weekend.
Come on now.
And I got it.
Come on now.
I'm sitting on that blanket, just laying there, and she's performing maybe I don't know how many yards away. I'm gonna say 50 yards away, right? And I'm just chilling and I'm looking. I don't know none of these songs, but I'm thinking Sexy Red is a one-hit wonder.
No,
Nah. And song after song happened, and then I realized that this is like this generation's like Back That Ass Up or something like that, where it ain't one is not meant for. I'm not ever in any spaces to digest this music, but when it's in the right spot, you get it immediately. I looked around and I got it. But my bad for sidebar of degeneracy. But Trey, really quickly, so you said Native Americans, are we like value system, are we any worse than Native Americans?
Right.
Do you think that Native Americans is like a well, I ain't even gonna say a fair comparison, I just asked you the question straight out. Do you think Native Americans have done successfully with what you might call their reparations, or could they have done better?
Well, real quick, I'm gonna touch on when you said Sexy Red. Man, I don't have any problem with her, and I do think she's degenerate, and I do have a problem with her. I take that back. Excuse me. But my main problem isn't her. It is the fact that we don't have as much of variety as we used to have. Because we used to have a Sexy Red and a Lauryn Hill. We used to have like the trap rappers, and we had like Andre.
We got Rhapsody.
Comment. I mean, but
you ain't rocking with Rhapsody.
I mean, I'm talking about like, as far as like mainstream on the radio, like Common, like The Light was on the radio.
I mean, you got Tierra Whack. I mean, you got Tierra Whack. You got Ice Spice. No one's on the radio no more.
Ice Spice. That's more.
I'm be honest. It's a bunch of. Some might say Tether's on the radio right now.
Right.
What do you call it? Afrobeat is heavy. A lot of like just like a lot of truthfully the diaspora. If I clean it up, and it's a lot of the diaspora that is on the radio that's not specifically what we might say quote unquote FBA. That's the most that I hear usually. Like shout out to Tim. Tim's my baby, but Tim's be on the radio.
It's a lot of that.
But I love to hear your answer to the natives, the Native Americans, and like how they unsuccessfully squandered their reparations into being subsidized to casinos that pretty much be owned by white folk.
Well, first off, just because they did whatever, however it went with them and their reparations, that doesn't mean that I wouldn't want my own shot at that.
Oh no, I'm saying you use that as like a counter to Johnny's question. You said, are Native Americans more like their value system? In which to me, it might denote that there's a chance that it's more than just reparations that might be needed.
Well, I just don't understand like the relation to the topic. Like for no other group do they consider their values before they give them what they're owed. Like they don't have to pass some values test for like people that are Jewish. Like if they look at how they're doing Palestinians right now, are their values better than ours? But they're still getting paid for. Well, I mean, not the thing. I want to get y'all.
Would you say?
Strike thing, but
Okay, I guess I see where you're staying at.
like it has
Johnny,
value should have nothing to do with it. My bad.
I mean, we're not.
and
talking
that's
about,
why you was bringing the reference, not necessarily what they did with said reparations.
Right. Yeah.
But
they're
I mean,
not better than us.
I agree that
Yeah.
we deserve the reparations. But what I'm saying is,
What do you think would be further up on the list, Johnny?
like I say, I think it comes down to our values and what we, deem as important as a culture. I think as long as we keep on creating, the sexy reds and all of this.
You gotta be more specific, bro. You said because we have sexy red, we don't deserve reparations. Like, what do you mean, bro?
I'm not
That's
saying
kind of like some respectability politics.
Yeah, like come on, bro. Give us what we owe. I don't care. Like sexy red don't have nothing to do with me, and it don't have anything to do with the people.
I mean, like I say, I gotta say, I personally would like to see we can get the reparations, but just like with the Indians or just like with anybody else, I think the values that you have matter. I think with other people, you've seen them be more successful. I think it comes down to their values as far as what they focus on when they come here, like going to college and focusing on certain majors, certain education
So it's not
routes,
Jim
certain
Crow,
careers.
slavery. It's because we just can't get right. It's not because we're specifically attacked and we're impoverished because they tore down all our towns and they owe us for the wealth that they extracted from us. It's because our values are so bad that we just can't keep up.
But the original question was,
what's more important to us?
Most important, right? Is reparations most important?
Yeah, the question is, are reparations the most important thing for Black people right now, or are there other things first on the agenda? Not that we shouldn't ever get reparations. The reparations aren't owed, but is there anything that's first on the agenda? Alex, what you think?
Yeah, let me jump in here. I think I can kind of go with what Trey is saying. But just to go a little bit further, like a lot of the things that, like kind of like how Trey said, like if you education, finances, land, real estate, all that stuff, all that can kind of pretty much be packaged into a reparations plan. I think the question more so is, what does reparations look like? And does it include each of those different aspects of, the deleterious situation that people are in right now? But I guess the answer, like, I think that reparations is important. I think it's so important that you essentially really have to have the research behind it, because I think there's such a diverse set of opinions. And this isn't including all the people that don't get to have opinions. Like amongst the people who are doing the work and dedicating their scholarly life and livelihood to researching this, I don't think any of them are going to say that reparations isn't important. I think it's the first step into rebuilding, a legacy that pretty much up until this point, if I'm not mistaken, we have been enslaved longer than we've been free in this country, in this continent. So you really don't get to build anything or start anything without at least starting come to the table figuring out, like, all right, what was extracted, what do we need to be made whole? So I think any problems that the Black community has right now can honestly be addressed through reparations or outside.
So that is the most important thing right now, is getting reparations.
I would say the question is kind of backwards, and someone in the chat kind of said this is a loaded question. I think repairing the Black communities, like repairing the Black community, restoring the Black community, getting restitution for the Black community is the most important thing, always and foremost. And reparations is just a part of that conversation,
G.
So it's different aspects, right? And I feel like reparations is most important when we are talking about the political view of things. I feel like us as a community, we often align with the Democratic Party, when in reality, I feel like as a Black American, you should align with the party who is pro-reparations and clearly pro-reparations. Like, we shouldn't be affiliating politically with any party that's not clearly pro-reparations for Black Americans, in my opinion. So I think
has there been a political party that has been pro-reparations?
Yep.
maybe a third party joint, Green Party.
Yeah. I think that's a part of this conversation.
I ain't found them.
No, they're not. There's no party that's for it. We have to force them. That's because we've been so lazy that we just vote for the people. We just vote Democrat for no reason. So of course they're not incentivized to do anything for us because they're going to get our vote anyway. So no,
I don't think that's.
So would political strength not be like something that would precede the idea of reparations?
Voting for Democrats is a certain value that we have as black. That's a value that's kind of baked into us as black people. And I think
all right,
moving away from that would help.
But before we even go down, I want to correct something. Like,
okay.
I need all of us to understand that black people have gotten reparations in this country at least a dozen times, if not more. Even if you want to count the individual levels of reparations, and the reason why I'm saying that is like even. Let me get to it. If you even recount like initially after the Civil War, where like there were like 40 acres in the moon, I don't think people really understand that story. Like they did get some got 40 acres in the mule, but what happened after the president? I think it was like the Liberal Party was in charge, and then after that Andrew Jackson or Johnson, they got in, and then they pretty much revoked it. And I think that's the thing that I really want to have us focus in on. Like, we have gotten reparations before. We have gotten reparations in various numerous ways, only for it to be revoked. And that's just not unique to us. It's unique to a lot of different groups in this country. I mean, maybe not necessarily.
So did we get something if we never received it?
Yeah, that's not
when you say we got reparations, what did we get that we never received?
So an important thing of this conversation is when they were deciding a 40 acres in the mule, we were having that conversation with the leaders, like pretty much with like the powers in charge. Like it was like us, like 20 community leaders of recently freed men. And they're like, hey, like, what do y'all want? We don't want money. We want land. And in addition to that conversation, like, oh yeah, we can throw in a couple mules. And they did get the land. But then all of the pretty much disgruntled
who got the land? Like,
who got the land?
We did.
No, we didn't. We didn't all get land, bro.
Listen. Like, this is not an anecdote. Like there was an entire strategy in order to pretty much weaken the Confederate soldiers, weaken their will. Like, hey, we just fought this war with y'all. We don't want y'all having all this land, so we're gonna give it to all these recently freedmen as reparations. Go look it up. Don't believe me. They did.
But then they took it away, right?
That's the point.
That's not reparations.
Okay, Trey, like, listen to what I'm saying. We have gotten reparations in various forms. Whether or not we keep it, whether or not gets reneged, is a different story.
If I pay you and I take the check back, did I pay you?
Trey, listen to what you just said. If you got reparations, if you came into agreement with someone and they take it away, you had something, right? It wasn't like this conversation never happened. It works. Okay, so if I gave you something,
the net of it equals zero.
Yeah, like I guess, like, so are you saying that's a good thing that happened? Like you're saying that?
No, it's not a good thing. This is why it's important to understand history. Why it's
inconsequential though.
It is.
Would you agree that it's inconsequential? Would you agree that it's inconsequential? If they gave us something and took it away, and we were zero, then what's the point of even like?
I think I see where he's going.
Listen, this is where we are right now in current conversations in this country. We are researching it. Anyone who is serious about reparations is researching it. So, with that being said, in order to not repeat history, you cannot just go into these conversations thinking that, yeah, we want tangibles. We're going to give you reparations and not think that at any given moment it can be taken away from you. Right. That's why it's important. Listen, that's why it's important to make sure that you are ironing out all of these things. And that's why it's important to have these conversations. That's all I'm saying. Okay. If you're saying that we never got reparations, that's inaccurate. We got reparations, I guess, and it was taken away.
I guess if you was to give like a more modern example, I guess people getting paid out for the Tuskegee experiment might be a version of what you're talking about. I guess I'll kind of push the fire a little bit, and I'll ask this or make this statement or observation or ask this question. Sometimes when I think about it, I think that until we get proper organization, political power, financial literacy, I think that reparations in the conversation can be somewhat a pipe dream. Because at this moment, nobody besides for a select smaller minority, i.e. FBA, ADOS, cares and has the power to affect the change. And it would seem like we would probably need to build political power. Again, be a little bit more organized to be able to effectively execute things. So it just seems like it's maybe like 2 to 3 more steps in front of it. And to answer Heart's Desires question, inside like the point of the conversation, I know for me, a lot of these unpack is kind of to get to an eventual resolve. I think that in some of these conversations, even if this is framed as a versus, I think that seeing our differences and disagreements and then understanding we probably all still do have a common goal and how we can eventually get to a point of getting there is the eventual common goal. But I know y'all got commentary to what I said. I'm waiting.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Let me just jump in because I think too, like, because something may have happened like in a certain pocket of an area doesn't mean that reparations were like that doesn't apply as reparations because things got applied to small sample sizes of population. So I think your examples of like things have been done in the past and taken away like is a good point in that we need to look at history before we move forward to make sure that what we put in place doesn't hurt us once it's in place. But to say that we've got reparations in the past, I think is an inaccurate statement.
Yeah, Alex, that's a distinction without a difference, bro. Like it's inconsequential. If you give me something, you take it back, and we're talking about reparations. Why would you talk about what was taken? Like if we're trying to, like, let's say if reparations is a group project, and most of us want cash payments now. Why would you add confusion by focusing on exceptions and speak negatively, focusing on the difficulty? Is that the kind of person you would want in the group as a partner, or do you want a person who is enthusiastic, dedicated, positive, and persistent? Because life is a competition. Cash is the official medium of exchange. When everyone else is given a financial undergirding while they continue to give money to other groups, then yes, reparations is the most important thing. We all need to come together and have that mindset. And if you don't think it is, then when the reparations conversation comes up, then it's counterintuitive and it derails the conversation when you add things to it that aren't keeping it focused. It's almost like the net. It makes it a net negative by even being involved in speaking on it, unless you're going to stay focused. You know.
Well, I just want to just go ahead and just get this out the way. I am not subscribing to anyone's dogma or pretty much like monolithic thinking. This is true. We had reparations. Now, whether you guys want to have a different definition of what reparations is, maybe when you guys say reparations, you're talking about a large-scale reparations paid out to an entire group of people in this country. If that's what you're saying, even that is up to for the debate, because when they were giving out 40 acres and the mule, that is who they were giving it to. But that's besides the point. Let me get back to the point. But like, if anything, Trey,
let's not circle around that same conversation. Let's try and move it forward. Come on, bro. Because y'all gonna keep arguing about if not reparations happen.
That's not even the point of it. Ultimately, just to kind of answer like what some people are saying, I think people need to understand how reparations is even like historically how it has even went about getting done. I think people need to understand that Black people getting reparations for the inequities and injustices done during slavery, that is like in a great deal of unprecedented thing done in an entirety of history. It hasn't been done before. Whereas what has happened before is, hey, this particular thing happened to you. You were exactly there. It happened to you.
That's not true.
Yes, it is.
People, Native Americans still get reparations today. The descendants do.
So
same thing with Holocaust victims.
So Black people didn't get reparations in Chicago?
When the Black people got reparations in Chicago?
Black people didn't get reparations in Chicago when they were being targeted by a racist police organization?
We're getting in the weeds. Is
No,
reparations
we're not
for
getting into
slavery
weeds.
and
You
injustice
don't
for
want. You
foundational
don't
Black
understand how
But
Americans?
reparations work.
but again, pointing to something happening in Chicago does not speak to, like, you know, the reality of
The whole
the
scale of
community.
FBA.
Like that's a very those are small pockets of communities.
But
Like the
but
city
I'm
of
a,
Asheville in North Carolina allegedly gonna give some
And let's put like
reparations.
3 minutes left on this topic, and then we're gonna
but
kind of
like
push it forward.
but if we're going off the conversation we had last week, right? No, we're not just getting reparations just for slavery. We're getting reparations for everything. So here I did doing my homework, listening to what y'all said, and I'm looking up things like, dang, we did for this and that. And what I'm saying is, this is the work that they did to put into getting that. It wasn't just these silly ass conversations we having on the internet. People got up off their ass, sued people, and did a class action lawsuit. And if we're talking about Native Americans, that is a completely different thing. That was like, if you're looking at Native Americans, they are a nation. They aren't Americans. They are a nation within a nation. They have treaties, and even them, an entire Chickasaw, Choctaw, all of these people, like, nah, y'all can have this land. Matter of fact, give it back. This always happens. So, what is the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting a different result. So, if we're going to be talking about reparations, we can't descend into insanity and thinking, yeah, we're going to get something, and then not think that they're not going to take it back. I don't know how that's confusing anything.
Bro, they're not
My
taking
bad for
back.
reading.
They're not taking it back if we stay on code. Back then we weren't allowed to have guns.
Do you hear how disrespectful that is? Don't you think your ancestors were on code?
They didn't have the same
for
power.
all the hard
they
work
dealt
that
with
they
Jim
put
Crow.
in you.
During Jim Crow, I think that they had their hands tied a little bit.
Are you saying that you got more fire in your belly than the people who fucking got out of slavery?
Bro,
You
they
don't
were
make no
during
sense, bro.
Jim Crow. They were during Jim Crow and the KKK, so I give them a little bit of grace.
So you right now, who hasn't got any reparations for yourself, you somehow you have more guile than your ancestors who actually did?
They were busy fighting the KKK, and I appreciate that from them. And now it's our turn to pick up the torch and keep this moving.
Hey, AG, can you hit the horns for us real quick? We can't hear it, my boy. But nonetheless, we gonna segue, but it sounds like we getting there. This is a good conversation. It's getting a little spicy. I like it. Because again, the spice is all based off the end idea that we're all looking for the same exact thing. But AG, can you share the screen? I'm gonna kind of break it up a little bit with this one. I think that this is properly placed for the moment.
Original Black Americans, Sulan Adas, and Foundational Black Americans, let's do a trend. Where are your ancestors from? Mine are from Georgia and Virginia. And I can trace that back for centuries. So let everybody know where your ancestors are from, since they're so curious.
So I love to hear from the panel. Where your peoples from? Like usually we just say where our peoples is from, but like we don't think of it in the sense of like ancestors. And I think that that's a unique way to kind of address a little bit of like some of the FBA tension that kind of exists. Is like, okay, we're looking for certain things to be our own. Johnny, where your peoples from? Where's your ancestors from? My bad.
It depending on how far you want to go back generations, but low country South Carolina, from the low country of South Carolina, Myrtle Beach, Conway.
Geechee, Gullah.
Nah, we ain't that. That's more Charleston, but we close. Yeah, we pretty close. But yeah, that's where a lot of most of my family comes from, and I guess you would say I got a lot of some Lumbee Indian on my mother's side from like northern, eastern North Carolina, I guess. So yeah, it's kind of those. I would say that.
Okay. G, where your peoples from? Where's your ancestors from?
As far as I know, they from Virginia and North Carolina. And just a funny story is there's actually, so my last name is a pretty popular name in the state of North Carolina, Austin, just like the Avenue in Durham. And
oh shit, that is true.
And there is a documentary out. You can find it, I know, on the iTunes store. It's called Family Name. and essentially this white boy grew up in Durham with the last name Austin, and then was in school and was like, why do these black kids have the same last name as me? And then he went on and do the history of where the Austin name really originated from in the state of North Carolina, and it traces back to two main plantations, one being right outside of Chatham County and one somewhere else. But if you are related to any Austins or you share that name Austin, highly recommend documentary called Family Name.
Heard. Alex.
That's dope. That's dope.
Let's see. I don't know. My people are pretty much from the North American continent. My dad's side, matrilineally, we can go all the way back to Antigua. On my paternal side, on my dad's side, pretty much in New Jersey. I think that's pretty much like where it begins and ends. And I think my great grandmother had to do domestic work in 1992, and they moved down to Antigua to do it, and then they moved back. And then my mom's side is Jamaican and Trinidad. And I have maroon heritage on both sides. Mom's matrilineal side, Jamaican maroon, patrilineal side, Trinidad, American maroon heritage. But yeah,
got you.
Pretty much it.
Real quick,
Oh.
I want to. Do you know when they arrived in the United States of America?
My granddad was born in 1992, and my it's kind of.
What? Your granddad was born when?
My bad. 1922.
Okay.
My bad. I was born in 1992. Yeah, my granddad was born in 1922. And we was 2-3 generations there prior, but pretty much anything after that, it's kind of up to discussion.
Okay.
So they've been on the continent since 2 generations before your granddad? Both sides?
I mean, if we're going to go off of my mom's side, we were here since the American Revolution. That's the American maroon heritage.
Okay. So when did they go to Antigua? My bad. I'm just kind of confused.
If you don't tell us your ancestry, bro.
It's just a lot because John said two places, and then you said Virginia and some other place, and then it's Antigua, and then 2 generations back. I didn't even know they were letting black people over here from the islands up to that certain time, unless they were enslaved, people that came over willingly. So I'm just just trying to.
No, they were already here. That's what I'm saying. But 1922, my granddad was born, and he was pretty much the last person here, born here. Then he went to Antigua. My granddad, Alex Roberts, you can look him up. He's a famous Antiguan, calypso and steel pan orchestrator. But essentially, he was born in New Jersey in 1922 in Hackensack, New Jersey. Go back a further generations past that, I'm not necessarily sure, but like I said, kind of here on both sides for a very long time. I think it's kind of important to understand that Hackensack, New Jersey has a lot of Caribbean history, a lot of prehistoric slavery history, and to some degree, it's kind of hard to pinpoint when anything has happened, but yeah, that's pretty much it.
Hey guys, the only reason I ask, it kind of segues to the reparations conversation, because you would trace, in order to be qualified for reparations, you would have to be here from the beginning, from 1860 and then lineage and everything like that. So just wanted to.
He said his people's maroons. That he good.
But then Antigua too. So I'm just.
But I think he said that they immigrated to Antigua. Trey, if you don't say where you from, bro, where your people from.
So my people are from St. George, South Carolina, on my grandmother's side, and on my granddad's side, they're from Marion County, on the way of Lexington, by way of Lexington, North Carolina. They trace back to the plantation there. Some family went there and saw the graves. On my mother's side, they've just been in Colleton County for as long as I can remember. Her great granddad built the house there, and that's back when everyone knew slaves. So they've just been in the Carolinas my whole life.
Okay.
Just to clarify one thing. American Maroons are pretty famous for burning down the White House. So I don't want to hear no bullshit about Tethered.
Hey, listen, it's in the comments already, bro. I'm gonna be honest. They there for you. But
let me know when your ancestors burned down the White House and then hopped on a boat to Antigua.
Man, they've been fighting white supremacists this whole time they've been here, bro. So I mean, like, it takes one to know one. That's what's up.
So I'll my people are from I'm from Jersey, but my grandfather's side is from North Carolina. I think Wilsonish. And then my mother's side is South Carolina. I can't remember exactly where. But yeah. I'm not sure, like, on my literal father's side where either one of his parents are from. There's probably some research that I need to kind of get deep into. My mother's really deep into the whole genealogy thing and tracing things back, so I know a little bit more. And she probably can, like, give I could probably come back with a better full deep dive to it. But yeah, I just feel like that was a good way to kind of break it up. We got derailed because we had a how Tariq say a suspected tether, but he proved to be a maroon, so it was okay. It was okay. Trey, get up off my boy. It's okay. It's okay.
I can't wait.
It's okay.
He wiggled. He got up out of that.
But nah, hey,
like that was the warm up. That was the warm up. Yeah.
So Trey, we about to move on, bro.
My bad. Let's go. My bad.
We ain't got to keep tracing down the lineage. It's all right. We gonna move the conversation a little bit. If you can, G, could you go to share screen? So we're gonna introduce this conversation about Tethered. We have seen Tethered a bunch of times on here, and on code, this tends to be another, like, one of those buzzwords that you hear a lot within the FBA community. I'm gonna start with what maybe y'all might call some tethered activity, and we'll kind of build from there.
We need to start gatekeeping carnival. There is no reason on this earth for anybody that's not from the Caribbean to be at carnival, and I don't care how y'all feel on the subject. Caribbean culture is not based on the fact that we're black. Black American culture is based on the fact of being black. That is two completely different things. A lot of the Black Americans in the comments, they were like, oh, what if we started gatekeeping our culture? Y'all should have been doing that. And the fact that y'all didn't, y'all are seeing the negative consequences of it now. So how can somebody not look at y'all in this situation and think, geesh, maybe I don't want this for myself and my culture?
Meanwhile.
Down the road.
All right, I'm gonna go to another one.
All my mods who are not cultured at all, stop dick riding. I don't want to hear, like, when I'm asking general questions, I'm not asking y'all niggas. Stop dick riding. Y'all niggas is black. You're black. You're just black.
Just be yourself and hit them with hey. Also, I just found the Anarchy hoodie yesterday. Can't wait. Finna resubscribe in a little W female viewer. Big 2 months December 9th.
Thank you so much. Bro, you're just fully American. You're African American, bro. That's it. How was that see you in 30? That wasn't an insult. That was strictly you're black. You're not Trinidadian. You're not Jamaican. You're not African. You're not word. You're not Ghanaian. You're not Dominican.
In reference to my video where I said that white people are not inherently racist. Tariq here says you are Nigerian, so you are not a foundational Black American, nor are you qualified to represent foundational Black American issues. Now, for those of you who aren't well versed in woke terminology, a foundational Black American is a Black American who is descendant of slaves. Tariq here coined the term foundational Black American, and just to keep you all in the loop, it used to be you can't talk about Black issues unless you're a person of color. Then it was you can't talk about Black issues unless you're a Black person of color. Now you can't talk about Black issues unless you're a Black person who's descendant of slaves. So Tariq and I corresponded back and forth on Twitter. You're welcome to check that out if you would like, but let me go ahead and summarize my point of view. I am an American. I speak on American issues. I will continue to speak on American issues in the wake of you trying to invalidate my opinion based on my ethnicity. And I would love to say that it is baffling to me that you have any sort of support for your opinions, but this is the new America that we're living in, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, I got one last one. One last one.
Man, so much
We'll
to
finish
unpack,
it.
man.
It is, but I want to make sure that we validate before we give an opposing view, because again, I do think that feelings come from somewhere. But here's a bit of an opposing view.
FBA in it, because I see a lot of people still using this term FBA, and they're using it as a word that describes African Americans, right? And I got a couple people in my comment section. It usually has to do when I'm talking about Nigerians or Africans and African American relations. I get a couple people be saying some dumb stuff like, "Yeah, us FBA," and they'll say, and once they say that, it's followed by something real stupid and ignorant, right? And I'm like, first of all, let's clear some shit up. Black people in America don't call themselves FBA. 99.99% of African Americans never heard of FBA, Foundational Black Americans. Nope, we ain't heard that shit. You ask any random black person, listen, you ask any, here's some homework for you. Go out when you tomorrow or whenever you see this, that day, go ask like 5 random people, what's FBA? They're gonna look at you like, I don't know, because it's not a thing. FBA is only Tariq Nasheed's xenophobic hate cult fan club. That's it. That's all. African Americans only call themselves Black or African American. We've been Black and we've accepted African American because African of origin, America is where we live. That's it. That's all. FBA.
I think I'll kind of stop it there. Fellas, like you said, that was a lot to unpack. I don't know what would be a good place to start this off at. Johnny, you in a neutral corner.
You muted, Johnny.
I think you muted, my boy.
My bad. Nah, I was saying that was kind of a lot back to back, because like the first couple, it was kind of like, especially like the first girl, I understood what she said about like seeing the example that we've set and not trying to replicate that. Oh, I can respect that. But Kai, he's in America and he talking about all this stuff that we not, and it's like, you're literally taking like the Black American culture and then saying that we're not culture. I can't respect that. Whatever the light skinned shorty from,
Amala.
she just Amala. She just make me mad because I just don't like her. And yeah, that's all I got right now. I'm still unpacking, but that's my first thought.
G, before we go to the, I know it's gonna get spicy at the bottom.
Pause.
Yes, that's
No,
a real pause.
No Diddy.
No Diddy.
yeah. My bad. What was the question again?
Let me put on my Dreamville hat and say I'm sorry. Oh, my bad. But it wasn't necessarily a question, but I guess I can ask you a question. Do you feel that tethered, the terminology of tethered, does come from some place of validity?
Man, I think tethered, that term, is another example of just how great Black Americans are, because I never heard the word before.
It come from us, if I'm not mistaken.
And now I see it, and I just want to use that shit as a diss at every chance I get. Just like let niggas know, like, yo, tether ass, get the fuck out of here. Like I want to use it so badly. So just shout out to the community for taking another word that meant absolutely nothing, had no cool, and making it so cool to use. So that's just the power of Black folks in the country. But I'll say, I think it comes from a place of the population who identifies as foundational Black Americans feeling like we don't have anything of our own, and feeling tired of people who look like us getting in the way of that mission. And so I don't think it's an unfair thing to create, because I do think there is a difference of psychology and approach to how foundational Black Americans view what's owed to them from a reparation standpoint, how they fit in society, versus how others who migrated more recently, post 1900, let's say, I think there's a different mindset. So that's my take on it.
Gotcha. Trey, let me ask you this. Do you feel that we need another derogatory term? And does it not start to feel black xenophobic to an extent?
I'm not sure if I would. I think xenophobic is just a way to escape accountability, because the term tether isn't really a new thing. Just to really give it a quick definition,
Okay.
a tether is a person from the diaspora who leaves their homeland and adopts a mentality of white supremacy that works against Black American interests while benefiting from FBA struggle. And that's especially the ones that have a vitriol and contempt for Black Americans while benefiting from us.
Isn't that the same as a coon?
Exactly. So a tether is just a coon from the diaspora.
But that's what I'm saying. Is it a need for another derogatory term then?
I mean, I think.
And does it not start to begin to feel black xenophobic? Like there's a need to like now start to over separate ourselves even from the diaspora.
I think if we want to survive in America, it's up to us to point out people who are mean us harm. And right, and tethers, if they unlike a lot of other like immigrants that may have anti-Black contempt, they have the ability to be our representatives and get into discussions and kind of derail the conversations. And then like Candace Owens is an example of what they call a tether. So,
but is Candace Owens any worse than Brandon Tatum?
I'm not sure Brandon Tatum's lineage, honestly, but
he be riding the American bandwagon really, really hard. I'm almost sure he's ADOS.
Well, I'm not here to say
because it all sounds like coon behavior, if anything, right?
Right, and I'm not here to say that there aren't our own. We don't have our own coons, but one difference between us and other groups is a lot of tethers, they don't have a camaraderie with Black Americans. So, like with the Brandon Tatum, we're used to.
Do you think Jesse Lee Peterson has a camaraderie?
I think he's a troll, and also he doesn't really get any respect in the Black community. We've always had a mechanism for checking coons in the FBA community. So when there's nobody that's out there like checking,
you think so?
Yeah, like definitely, okay. like we call people Uncle Toms, even back to Malcolm X. You know, like we've always called out sellouts and people that work against them, like handkerchief.
So did you think that MLK was a coon? Because didn't he call him an Uncle Tom?
No, I don't remember who called him an Uncle Tom. Malcolm X.
Yeah,
I think that was just because what he didn't like seeing.
It was young Malcolm.
Right, it was young Malcolm. They came together later.
But isn't that like before he became Pan-African, Malcolm?
I wouldn't necessarily. I think Malcolm X has always, his goal has been for Black Americans to make better.
But then he went to Mecca, and then he got a world view of
his like perspective of racism changed.
And died shortly thereafter, so we don't really know where that Africanism was going to really take him. But what he did for Black Americans came here, and I think he just didn't like seeing Martin Luther King getting beat up and allowing that to happen, because he was, so he called him a coon for allowing that. And I think we should call people out if it seems like they're being docile in the face of white supremacy, because we have a warrior mentality we want to maintain.
And I guess I was asking that mainly because sometimes it seems as though we throw derogatory terms, pejoratives, whatever you want to call it, at people that we specifically don't agree with their thinking. Not necessarily that they're doing the worst thing for Black people, but it's just because you think differently than me. So because of you think differently, I ostracize you with the term, i.e. Malcolm X calling MLK an Uncle Tom. I'm a Malcolm X guy. I ride with him. But at the same time, that's what he was doing, correct? And it seems like sometimes that might be a thing that, or I hope that Tethered doesn't end up becoming that. But I'd love to hear your opinion.
I think cooning and buffooning isn't just like a difference of thought. It's like if we both arrive to the same conclusion, but we think about that differently. That's different than you out there giving Black people a bad name and speaking bad on Black people in front of white people for a check. Like that's not thinking differently. That's really selling your people out. And no other group of people allow someone of their group to go out there and then say bad things about them on their behalf without getting checked. I think black FBAs have a history of being way too nice and friendly. And then the FBA movement is a cultural revolution where we're just getting out in front of that and checking that at the door. And again, it came out with this FBA and with this reparations movement because we saw a lot of the people that they put out here to speak out against reparations just so happen to be the ones that don't share our lineage and don't understand our culture. So
Gotcha.
it's almost like they were here for that purpose, honestly.
Okay, gotcha. Hey, shout out to Stephen Defon. Not deflecting. I would say that I want to make sure that we have as fair of a conversation as possible. So I do want to throw it to Alex, and love to hear your opinion.
I think that it's kind of ironic how certain groups of people are kind of misusing the word tether. Comes from the Jordan Peele movie from 2019, I think. Yeah, Us.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
it's kind of like how
Is Jordan Peele a tether?
Nah, he's an FBA. He made a movie calling out Tether, surprisingly. Same brother from Get Out.
Right.
But just to get back on subject, it's kind of similar to like how someone like Andrew Tate, like a heterosexual male, kind of uses the Matrix as an allegory of how he's being oppressed, while not understanding that the Matrix is an allegory about being transgender. I think it's kind of the same thing that's happening with the Us, like Us and Tether. Y'all didn't know that?
Yeah, I can't let you
repeat that one more time.
Slow it down one time for a slow fuck.
If you watch the movie Matrix, it's an allegory about being transgender.
That's not true.
That's what you took.
You think Sophie? You think Sophie was writing a transgender movie?
Yeah.
Are you talking about the movie, not the actual book in the literature? You talking about just what the white folk did with it?
The Matrix. I'm talking about
the first one, the second one, the whole culmination of the trilogy.
The whole thing.
Keanu Reeves.
Right? I don't think that black woman wrote that book about being transgender.
Hold on, but just to get back on point, like the movie Us is about.
No, bro. Like we want to hear that, bro.
That's a crazy hot take. If you're gonna throw that out there, you gotta like say something about it.
You gotta break that, unpack that.
All right,
unpack it. Yeah.
Go watch the movie again. The movie is literally about being trans. Like this is not my take on it. Like this is it was made by I don't want to dead name them, but the Wachowski sisters. And the movie is pretty much about their experience transitioning into being women. But that's besides the point. The point of the matter is.
Oh, so you don't think that Sophie made the Matrix? You don't believe in that?
Who is Sophie?
It's the black woman. I can't remember her last name, so I'm not saying it at the moment. But she wrote the book that the Matrix was based off of.
Well, when the Wachowski sisters took it, they pretty much they wrote the script over it. But anyway, that's besides the point. What I'm ultimately saying,
my bad.
I'm not going down this hole anymore. The point I'm trying to make is like for as much as this been like prevalent, like red pill this, red pill that, MGTOW this, it's like it kind of misses the point. And the same thing is happening with this tethered, I guess derogatory term. But I kind of like if you think about what was happening in the movie and what ultimately happened at the end of the movie was, hey, was Adelaide up here the whole time or was Red up here the whole time? Oh, you know what? No one fucking knows. It really didn't make a goddamn difference at the end. And it's kind of funny calling people tethereds when literally like it's a fundamental misunderstanding of what the movie was trying to communicate. The movie wasn't trying to communicate like, oh man, the people down under, they trying to take stuff from us. Like the people down under were made and created the same way you were. There literally is no difference besides the situation. And I find it it's kind of somewhat rooted in like racist old tropes. Like when anybody from any different country who's not white comes here and they have a baby, they call it an anchor baby, and Tether is just like a new reimagining of that. And why don't y'all go back to your country and fix it? But it's like, I think it takes an immense amount of privilege to say something like that while you're living in this country. While, hey, why don't you go fix your country? Well, I would have, but your country just invaded my country, Grenada, 40 years ago. Hey, why don't you fix your own country? Why don't y'all go back there and fix your own country? Well, I would, but you remember like in the 2000s when y'all came over here and then this war on terrorism and fucked up all my shit, and now the Middle East is destabilized, Africa is destabilized. Oh, why don't y'all go fix your own shit? okay, I would fix my own stuff, but when they were selling crack to black neighborhoods to fund the Contras in Nicaragua to overthrow a government, no, you don't have the privilege to say go fix things in your own country when you're part of a systemic system that, hey, we're just gonna break things and tell people to go fix it on their own. But that's all I got. It's kind of fun. You can't call someone a tethered when we live in a global economy that essentially at any given moment, the country that you are hosting pretty much like takes advantage of all the developing countries around the world. But that's all I gotta say.
So I'll continue to push the conversation a little bit forward on the same topic of the tether, but so I guess I'll ask this question. I kind of hinted at it a little bit, but just to say it straight out, do you think that the term and like these different terms that are kind of starting to pop up that's dealing with like black people is another push to make black people monolithic thinkers? Like for a while, you was called a sellout or Uncle Tom if you just was a Republican and you thought different than the Democratic Party. And like it was just thrown out, even if it didn't make sense, even if black people are naturally conservative. And that was the thing. If you just went away from what the mass thought was at the moment, you was called, say, an Uncle Tom or a coon or, you know, as many things as you want to know. I mean, as you want to say. Do you think that this could be simply one of those things where I don't agree with you, you foreign, so we monolithic over here, Tether's over there? I don't know. I throw it up in there.
Just to jump in, like I think oftentimes, like when we're having these conversations, like I keep seeing the no true Scotsman fallacy kind of reemerge all the time. Whereas, like, if anybody of your in group says something, I don't know what their lineage is, or I don't know. I mean, we keep them in check, but like. I need people to kind of understand, like, Clarence Thomas is a black man with lineage all the way back to South Carolina. And he's like right up there in a position of power. Can literally, he's a vote away from making reparations happen or not happen. And no one says anything about that. Like, no one's up here like, man, he a tethered, or man, he's not a coon.
He's a known coon. Yeah.
He's
he's an
iconic character in itself.
I want to know which Jamaican American, Haitian American, non-FBA American is in any position of power that Clarence Thomas is in. Barack Obama.
He's a tether.
Okay. You say
so
so.
Is Kamala Harris.
If you say so. Kamala Harris is a tether, but she has openly said that she's for reparations. I don't get it. Like,
the official Democratic policy is they're not for
you can't win.
I mean, but I'm just trying to make it's got to be factual though. Kamala Harris, I wanted to see the clip where she said that she's in favor of reparations for foundational Black Americans when she's not a foundational Black American herself.
I haven't heard her like if she's allegedly pro reparations. I can't say I've seen any policies that she's tried to get behind or push through or promote. I can't really say that any Democrats that are part of the
official policies they're against
promote.
Right.
But the conversation is, hey, you guys are getting in the way and talking about stuff and trying to talk it down. That's not what Kamala Harris did. She's on record, like pretty much the entire, like when this all came up, like in 2020, the 2020 election. A lot of like that's pretty much how strong the conversation was going. They all had to kind of get on message and say like, I'm for reparations, but somehow
she specifically said the opposite, bro. She said, "Do you think I'm gonna do anything that's gonna help Black people?" No.
Yeah, she said specifically Black people.
Right.
That was kind of her point.
Yeah.
But
reparations are for Black people, so she said she's not gonna do anything for Black people. So that's a contradiction, right?
But yeah, Trey, do you think that? No matter of fact, I want to switch it a little bit. Because to an extent, I think that when we have this conversation. I've heard our resident FBA say this term, and I hear it thrown out often. So I'd love to know, what does it actually mean? Because it's thrown out at FBA and what do you call non-FBA blacks? What's like the proper term in FBA language to say?
Man, just like when I call when I call an FBA a coon, that doesn't mean that all FBAs.
Hold on, just answer that really quickly, and then I'm still going to throw it to you.
So the question is, what does that mean when you call a non-FBA a tether? It means
no. If they're just like being regular, what do you call?
No. It's only,
what do you call non-FBAs when they're just being regular?
The term only applies to those who are undermining us while benefiting, and those that have vitriol.
No, I understand that. I'm building to something else. But there are, so there's no term. So all the other people within the diaspora, that'd be the answer. So I hear it thrown at, like black people or FBA or Africans within the diaspora in general. This term on code, and I would love to understand and know from you, what does it mean to be on code? Like, what does that term mean? Is there like a specific way that as black people, as a black diaspora, we should be seeking a specific thing, or a specific way that we should interact, dress, participate within, whether it's government, I don't know, like all the different facets of society. What is on code?
Well, it's difficult to address the diaspora, but as far as on code, because the diaspora, this, like,
but when like a non-FBA is acting off code though, for sure, right? Because we tether them.
Right.
What's on code though?
On code is when you put your people first and your lineage first and your self-interest first. And like some examples like I gave from last week was, when Malcolm X when they got together and got that brother released, and the Farrakhan Million Man March, and then when Tupac got out the car and handled that race soldier who was undercover, it's when you do the right by your people.
Okay, so I got two things. One is so I guess is like when you what is it, like when you square a number, when they say tether babble, is that like how you like make the tether word stronger? I keep seeing it in the chat. It's hilarious.
That would apply. I mean, that of course they're referring to Alex because they think that you may not be at FBA, and then we
tell them that his people maroon. But
there's also some Angolians. So let's say.
Alex, don't respond yet. We gonna come back to you. Okay. We're gonna come back. I promise. But yeah, I wanted to know really quickly. Let's make it a little lighthearted, then we'll get serious. Okay. So I want to know if I was on or off code earlier, this past weekend.
It's okay. Red.
No, it wasn't sexy red. It wasn't sexy red. You gotta listen. Quick story. It's only gonna be like a minute, but I'm actually really interested to know your perspective because I know you a little bit, right? So I'm at Dreamville Fest, and what was that? Saturday? No, Sunday. Yeah, I know it was Sunday. Sunday about like 3 or 4 o'clock, right? It was that women's Final Four game. And if you know the divide, you know the divide. It was USC versus Iowa. And out Dreamville Fest, ain't nothing but 30-year-old black folk out there. I'm gonna be honest with you. But I like Caitlin Clark. And so they had it on the big screen. I'm over there, and all around me is USC. Every bucket that, Cardoza, she drop step, make the layup. Whoever other shorty is, but, Caitlin Clark, sometimes she'll come down, pop, 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 let one fly. I'm like, 3, and I'm turning up for Caitlin. But I'm in like a FBA space. But I rock with her. Not, you know what I mean? So I just want to know, like, was that off-code behavior cheering for Caitlin Clark at Dreamville Fest around all these beautiful FBA people?
That's a good question. No, you're not off code for being a fan of basketball. but if y'all saw when Emmanuel Eko, or I think it's something like that, the Nigerian guy, Ancho, yeah, he was talking bad about Angel Reese and saying like you can't be courage, and he's also Nigerian, and that's called tether babble. What some would call
called tether babble,
and that's on code. But it's not like the thought police where you can't be a fan of Caitlin.
Hey, listen, hold on. The chat telling me I'm hella off code. That's what they saying in the chat.
Off code, bro. He off code.
That's what they saying. Nigga. But I just like her jump shot, like she
all the way off code.
How you feel about Paige Becker and Caitlin Clark? All right, Alex. Next question. Go ahead.
I I haven't kept up with the
No, I ain't talking about that. So do you think that in general, on code is that an applicable term and should be used in something that we should kind of like maneuver as black people within the diaspora for?
I think it depends on your politics and your worldview. I'm more of the Fred Hampton side of the house, where I really more so believe in the Rainbow Coalition, because I believe that a lot of the problems that we have more to do with like economic and socioeconomic statuses than they do with like the colors of our skins. I'm not saying that race doesn't play a role in it, but like I think to some degree, like it's used as a distraction, and it's used as a way to kind of keep us divided from actually attacking the real issues. I think.
Hey Alex, as you continue building really quickly, we do have a fact checker in the chat, and they said that they looked it up. Kamala Harris said that she would back a bill to study reparations for the descendants of slaves. A study. Let's speak the truth. Maybe that's probably what you was speaking of. I thought she was going for you, but I don't know. Continue, Alex. Sorry.
Yeah. I'm more so on that side of thinking, where it's, hey, we gotta like come together and fix things, because like I think ultimately, unless we have a fair, equitable, and just society for everyone, I don't think anything works. And that's pretty much what Fred Hampton said. Like, you know, an injustice anywhere. This is not Fred Hampton, but Martin Luther King. An injustice anywhere is an injustice anywhere. Like for me, like I grew up in the Virgin Islands, where we were the predominant group there. And I remember how we used to treat like Dominicans when they were seeking refuge in the Virgin Islands. And the specific thing about the Virgin Islands. But I'm a military.
Finish your point. Finish the point.
But like the thing about it is, like, I've seen what it is when black people who look like me, like we're the governor, we're in charge of everything. And the thing about the Virgin Islands is it's a American territory, so people will come there. And I remember how we used to treat those people. And I know, like, regardless of who's in power, I think they need to be we need to just be just and fair and equitable to everyone and be inclusive. That's why I don't talk the way that like certain people of the diaspora talk, because I know like what it looks like when you are being xenophobic. I know what it looks like when you are being racist. I know what it looks like when people.
So do you think that on code ends up devolving into those words and those terms?
I think the same thing that will propel you to be on code within your race is just general good practice to be on code as a human, period. You know, like there's certain things that like I wish white people didn't do, Hispanic didn't do. Like honestly, like when you hear it, you cringe. I know like maybe that might be a controversial thing to say, but like I don't look at. I think that obviously I'm black. I know my experiences are going to be greatly dictated by how I look and how people perceive me. But in order to transcend that, like that's what my ultimate goal for all of us is. Is that ever going to happen in my lifetime? No, but like honestly, I hope that's what could happen. You know, I think that would be a better society where if my son can walk down the street and no one looks at him funny because he's black, you know, like to me, that would be great. But can that happen if we are kind of siphoned off and cornered off into our own little corners? No, like I ain't telling you what to do with your own show, G and Q, but like it'll be cool to get some, you know, some other folks on here to get their opinions so we can kind of start blending and building these bridges, you know. That's all.
I understand it. Listen, Alex, you it sounds like you have closer contact with some of these other people. We love to have call-ins and panel participants. Hook us up. You're part of this Unpacked show. You here? Johnny, I know y'all two can kind of let's let it breathe for a quick second. Johnny, I'll let it hear your opinion.
Johnny P, man, go ahead and jump in there, man.
Oh no, I'm just listening, bro. I'm just I'm gonna let
it's
y'all.
Good. It's getting good. Okay.
Yeah, I got my pop. Yeah, I like this.
Word up. Nah, man, look, I think you know, to Alex's point, we want to have diverse perspectives, backgrounds. There's some debate going on in the chat about, well, by definition, this person is a tether, that person's a tether. But I think one key thing to talk about is like, are you trying to undermine the mission? Just because your background is this or your background is that doesn't necessarily default you as a tether. It's the fact that you aren't like FBA and you're trying to undermine the mission, what I do kind of have a general question in terms here, like, what do we call like the old school Uncle Toms, the FBAs who they're FBA and they're still trying to undermine the mission? Like, what do we call those folks today? Are they like a different type of tethers? Or are they just like, what do we call them folks?
They're coons. Like, they get the same smoke. It's not like we're singling out black immigrants or anything like that. And no one is saying that all black immigrants.
But it is kind of singling out black immigrants, though, right?
But there's a specific word for them. There's a specific word for us. But no, a coon and a tether are both ops. Like, it's like, which pick your poison. No one's
coons
like,
are natural to North America.
They're natural born, right? It's a foreign.
Homegrown.
Homegrown.
FBA, if you will. ADOS, if you will.
FBA and ADOS is kind of like dead.
Hey, why y'all don't like ADOS? This is like a quick tangent, but as I was doing the research, something that I was starting to see a bit of people kind of have commentary about and look at is the fact that ADOS seems like it's like the group that's attempting to put policies in place right now, where FBA, to my understanding, is kind of like it's
a lineage.
It's a lineage, but like the movement at the moment is like internet fodder. Like, it hasn't like reached a place to where it has started to put actual boots on grounds and affect policy. You can correct me. This is just what I've seen, so I'm here to get information.
Well, it's a grassroots movement and it's new, so of course, like, it'll take some time to really catch on, but everything starts that way. And there have been FBA conventions, there have been FBA reparations rallies. There are multiple people that are in the New Black Media, and also this month is New Black Media Appreciation Month. So these are the main ones that push FBA, and their goal is to talk about our lineage and Black empowerment. And we need a term like FBA to describe our lineage because African American is just way too vague, you know?
Gotcha. So just to act, I guess, to rehash on the same question I was asking, why do y'all not like ADOS?
It's an LGBT organization, I heard.
Because the founder's a woman.
Well, I think another thing I heard is like when you like American descendant of slavery or slaves, I think it kind of highlights like the I guess it puts the inhumanity front and center because like you're not a descendant of a slave, you're a descendant of an enslaved person, and that's kind of like how like Tariq Nasheed's kind of like, you know, like, I mean, I don't know, like, this is what I heard. Like, it's one thing to be a descendant of someone who was enslaved, but to say they were slaves, it kind of rips away like the culture and heritage and the story that they had way before they were ever put in bondage.
I feel that. And not all of us were enslaved as well.
So is it just like literally just terminology and not the fact of the group and what they're doing and what it means?
One is a lineage.
Another thing, this might be somewhat silly, but ADOS also stands for Autism Diagnosis Assessment. And that was kind of like whenever you type it ADOS, like that's like the first thing that pops up. And I think that was another reason why they kind of
so like they don't fuck with the branding, but not the people, or is it because of the lady is LGBTQ?
Well, Yvette Carnell and Tariq, they kind of were in cahoots with each other, and then you know, like Yvette Carnell is kind of like one of those people that's really strong-minded, and so is Tariq, and then they went poof, and then you know Tariq started the FBA stuff, but
that's not exactly. Like basically, ADOS started making chapters and they started making it in a group and doing like membership and everything like that. Tariq's goal was to have a lineage, to have a distinction of our background and our history, and he wanted to keep it at that. So the whole group thing and becoming a Democratic Party and everything like that, they got way more complicated than it needed to be.
So is FBA's goal never to actually become like organized and like some version of a group?
We need a political party, but it doesn't have to. But we need the FBA all it means is a lineage. It's that simple. We can go from there, but ADOS is a group, so that means it's really that simple.
It's I don't know. I'm gonna sound like a noob, but like I know there's FBA, ADOS, and B1. That's just one.
Yeah,
okay, I thought that's what it was.
B1 is Black First.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that means that like you could be anything, but as long as you black first.
Yeah, it's kind of more Pan-African. So I mean, it's like
Oh,
we're
okay.
not like FBA is off code to let a white person clown an African and then like side with the white person against African. That's off code. But at the same time, FBA that doesn't mean we
What
have
if they
our
call
own
them a tether?
If you letting white people do that, then
okay,
that's off code. At the end of the day,
just being
like,
silly. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I don't know. Do y'all have any wrap up thoughts on this before we kind of move the conversation along?
Man,
come on, Johnny, give us something. You over there quiet and thinking, my boy.
Oh no, I'm just learning. I mean, because it's a touchy subject. Because like, I always say two things. A lot of stuff, two things can be right at the same time. So I feel what Trey's saying, but I also don't want to step on the wrong toes, and I don't want to alienate ourselves from potential allies by just being so.
We don't have no allies.
You said black people don't have any allies?
We don't have. We never had allies. It's not since John Brown.
Oh, okay. All right. So I guess I know your answer, but I'm gonna throw the alley oop to you, and we'll start this conversation at this spot. Do you think that black Americans need or maybe I'll frame it this way: do you think that there's a need for a global connection between black people across the diaspora?
Well, I think that question it will vary from person to person.
Specifically, you. I'm just only you.
Oh,
yeah.
I mean,
you think that there's a need for a global connection for black people within the diaspora?
In the advent of like remote working, like a lot of people are taking their high-paying first world jobs and going to live like somewhere else. And for me, I got family in Canada, I got family in England, I got family in Florida, Atlanta, everywhere. Like I kind of come from a family of people. Like it's not weird for me to call my uncle in Canada. It's not weird for like my great aunt to visit me from England. So to me, it makes sense to like keep those connections, build, and honestly, like I think it kind of goes to the greater picture of America is kind of a declining country. Like if you look at us in comparison to other developed nations, there's certain things that we don't have. There's certain things that we don't do. There's certain things that we don't provide for the citizens in this country. So to kind of hedge your bets on this country being the place that you're going to live in for the next 5 decades, I think if you're really following the news, I don't even think a lot of us on this call would even be here. A lot of people within my field, the tech field, once these brothers get their money, like they're gone. Like they go to Italy, they go to Mexico, they go back to Africa. I ain't trying to rile nobody up, but like it's not. I'm like I said, like I'm not saying that's something for everyone, but I do think that you're not necessarily building the most building the most, I guess, fruitful future for yourself if you're kind of limiting yourself to only living here, because you never know what's going to happen. Like I think people kind of take for granted the position that America's in, but like anybody can be a refugee. Anybody can get it. Like, but yeah.
Yeah. So real quick, G, I love for you to read out the super chat that we have. Again, this is also a quick plug. So again, these conversations aren't free. And if y'all would love to donate towards the cause of these conversations in general, make sure y'all send a super chat. G.
So what were we talking about? I just lost my train of thought. Alex, you commented on what was the question, Q?
Oh, I'll read the super chat real quick, then I'm gonna toss back to you. Focus on the community. Ain't no politician about to play 15+% of the U.S. population. Build community. And I think that maybe that's a throw to the reparations conversation in general. And if it's possible, if it's going to be a thing that might work, might not.
Got my train of thought back.
All right.
So we were talking about the importance of allies and being connected as a community. And I think there's a difference between having, being friends and having relationships. So, for example, you wouldn't necessarily classify the U.S. and China as allies, but there's an undeniable relationship between the two. They rely on each other to do business, that help each other in certain ways. And I think as an FBA community, we need relationships established to build our community, because you still need to be able to trade. You need to be able to do other things in other places. And so whether that be, quote unquote friendships, I don't think that's necessarily the case, like is the key word, but we do need established relationships so that we can do business in a global society, in my opinion. We don't want to be, with respect to some other smaller developing Black nations, like when you're isolated, it's tough to grow your economy. And as a, foundational Black American, if we delineate and we become our own thing, then there needs to be a strategy to grow economically. And it's tough to do that without relying on some isolation, people outside of where we come from. Yeah.
Don't you think that everyone's already delineated but FBAs? We're the only people that call ourselves people of color. Like the Black Caucus, they fight for all.
So do y'all want to go into the delineation conversation now, or finish off this question? It's up to y'all.
I want to sit here a little bit more.
Okay. So stay here, and then we're gonna get there to delineation, Trey. I know you got a bag for that one. But I think where was we at?
Can I ask you a last question?
Unity and the allies is important.
Unit. So I'd love to hear your opinion on it. In general, do you think that there's a need for a global unity within all Blacks of the diaspora?
I think if Black people need a connection across the diaspora, then we might as well hang it up, because they're not even united with themselves. In Africa, on the continent, they have intertribal beefs, where they have genocides and civil wars against each other. We just need to focus on building ourselves up, because until we build ourselves up, we aren't fit to be allies with anyone anyway.
Mm-hmm. I feel like that was going to get some commentary from the panel. Nah?
Yeah. My bad. My kid's baby nursery alarm went off. I kind of want to sit on what Trey said. I think this has to kind of be understood. I'm not trying to disparage anyone, and I know people cooking me in the comments, but I really don't have anything against getting reparations, and I really don't have any problem with the FBA movement apart from some parts. But I do think that it takes an immense amount of privilege to say the diaspora is this and the diaspora is that, and they need to fix their own problems when you live in a country that contributes to those problems. It's kind of like MF Doom said, it's like taking the soldier's weapon, kicking them and shooting them and telling them to get to stepping. That's pretty much what I keep hearing. And that's why, honestly, if you don't think that that there is nothing to build with them or nothing to have, that's one thing. But to essentially be a part of a system in a machine that is running around like a bull in a china shop, that doesn't make any sense. It's I don't want this
I mean, we're fighting the machine though. So, and then why don't the people fight back? They have their own corrupt governments. Instead of fighting the corrupt governments, they get on the first thing smoking over here to benefit what we fought for.
That's not necessarily true, Trey. I don't think anybody is getting on a plane or a train to get here. I think you kind of need to look at things as they are. And
we're gonna put 3 more minutes on the conversation and then wrap it up.
just to kind of root this conversation in
or this part of the conversation.
Just in general human nature and human instincts. Why did everybody move to Chicago, Detroit, St. Louis, New York, New Jersey, Baltimore? No, but why? like for what you're saying,
for jobs in our own country that we fought for.
That's not why, Trey.
So are you comparing? Are you comparing pledging allegiance
Trey,
to a new country to moving across town?
Trey, I said the human reason why you were in the South, and why didn't you stay in the South and fix it? Like, you see how backwards
a lot of
that
us
sounds?
did stay in the
So
South.
I want to hear Trey's answer to that question. You asked him. I want to hear his answer.
Let me finish it. Like,
oh, you was going rhetorical. I got you.
Yeah, like it's one of those things where, like, we had a great migration north, a great migration west. That's why there's black people in California. That's why there's black people in all over this country. And to say, like, why?
California. There's always been black people there. There are already black people in Chicago. Even since they said the guy with the French last name, the French Creole guy, they said he founded that. And also they had French, like black people who helped the explorers map the United States when they first came here. So this idea that we are fleeing or anywhere or going anywhere else, we've been here, so we move around our nation. There's nothing near comparable than abandoning your homeland, and instead of fighting back, you just come over here and build a new life and never go back.
Hold on.
So, hey, fellas, we're gonna wrap this point. I'm sure we're gonna be able to circle back within this because we're about to dive into delineation in general.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, it's.
I do want to hear what are you saying about people leaving the South? Are you saying that they left for I do want to know what are you saying here?
Like, the reason why I'm saying that is it's like, would you fault somebody being in antebellum South, being in Reconstruction South, being in Jim Crow South, saying I can't do nothing down here? Let me move me and my family to New Jersey, to Baltimore, to anywhere else to get an opportunity. Like. That's why, like sometimes these conversations, they kind of, like, I get what you're saying, but like, would you fault any family? Like, we all have families, we all people we care about. You mean to tell me you would rather have your children starve to death than to stay somewhere and not be able to provide for them? I don't think any of us would say that.
A lot of us wouldn't abandon our homelands and then just say, leave it to hell and then go someplace else, and allow our families still there and never go back. And honestly, the only reason that they have a place to come, we fought them to allow black immigrants to come to America. And we fought for them to quit bondage over there. We fought for South Africans. We even fought for Ethiopians. We do a lot of fighting for other people. What we need to do is for them to fight for themselves. We haven't seen enough of that, in my opinion.
Even that's kind of like a really reductive view of history. But just the question I'm asking the group. If you had to put food on the table, provide for your family, take care of your loved ones, and it means, I don't know, moving to Canada, like, are y'all telling me that y'all would stay here?
Right, so I'm
zero opportunity.
I guess I'm just trying to figure out like why are you saying what you're saying? To say that, did somebody say we can't go from, say, Alabama to Chicago, or like, are you saying there's a difference between going from Alabama to Chicago and then going from Alabama to Toronto? Like, I'm just trying to get what you're driving home.
So in the grand scheme of things, in a global economy, why are we faulting people for moving to where they're the pretty much an economic opportunity to raise their people out of the gutter from? Like,
are we faulting people would be my question. Like, I didn't realize we were faulting people for wanting to live abroad. Are we faulting them for that?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm most definitely faulting them, bro.
For living abroad?
No, not for living abroad, but if you leave a place where your people are struggling, and you're the majority, and you're sitting on trillions of dollars of resources, and you have a corrupt government
that
bows down to Europeans, then why would I respect the person that comes over here to benefit off of what we fought for, especially if they have contempt for us? Like, the Pan-Africanism needs to start in Africa. Otherwise, there's no.
But wouldn't they be coming over here because of exploitation inside Africa? So they're not able to explicitly get what is or take advantage of those things. So the idea is that I'm going to make money here, then send the money back, and then use that money to then build up whatever, like the resources is, to where they can take advantage of what's literally on their land.
Man, a lot of the people that can afford to come to Africa are the same tribes that got rich from selling us into slavery. They sold all the men off, and then that helped them to get.
Is that like they deserve it type of thing?
I wouldn't say they deserve it, but they don't deserve to benefit from what we fought for while we get undermined as a result of it. When they could.
But wouldn't that same thing apply for like Eastern Europeans too, for example?
Yes, they are also fleers. Like the people that fled the Irish potato famine and came over here, they fled. Like we didn't have any place to run. We've been in the belly of the beast. We had to fight.
So like everybody that came through Ellis Island, pretty much. Then.
Yes, they're fleers. They came over here to freeload off of what Black people built here for free, and we didn't benefit from it. So that's why reparations is the most important thing for us.
So you really don't. So you really don't fuck with like most Americans in general.
I wouldn't say I don't fuck with them, but I don't put their interests ahead of mine.
Okay.
Like this is, I think this is a very interesting thing to hear because like Trey, if you weren't born in the zip code that you were born in, and you weren't born in Africa, I mean not Africa, my bad. I should have never said that one. If you weren't born here, if you weren't born here, come on, bro. If you weren't born here, like, do you think you would have the same opinion? Like, let's say you were like born in like I don't know, like. I don't like. Let's see. Like, we're
I wouldn't know, man. There's different cultures.
Where's Borax from? Kazakhstan. Like, let's say he was born there. Like, how would you you wouldn't think that an option, a viable option to uplifting your family, is going anywhere where work is, going anywhere where there was a better opportunity?
You're a product of your environment, and I looked up the people who fought against the power. I didn't look up the people that fled. So I guess if I came from a place where people looked up the people that fled, then I would probably see nothing wrong with it. But coming from the people who I look up to, who did everything to fight the strongest military in the world, who was against us, and to get everything that we had, I think that like I hate to get into when Kanye said slavery was a choice type thing. Like it wasn't a choice for us. I'm saying when we eventually, it wasn't a choice for all of us, but it was a choice for the ones that decided to sell us out to get their freedom. And
hey, fellas, I think that this is a fitting spot to kind of push the conversation a little bit further, and get into this delineation conversation as a whole. I'm gonna start it off. Maybe some people might call this a loaded question or something that we could really unpack for a second. I'll ask this. Are all blacks in America or all descendants of slavery African?
Yes.
No.
Are all foundational Black Americans African? That's a better way to put it.
How do we define African? Because I think
came over as slaves.
Came over as slaves. So
yes.
Fresh off a boat, African is what we're saying.
Yes. I know that there's multiple narratives within the FBA movement, so I'm just throwing this out as almost an alley-oop to kind of begin the conversation.
So our lack of well, I think that's
chat said no.
I think that's the thing about it. Like I think there's a good admixture of a lot of things. Like for the most part, it's African. I think, some of us kind of have like very unique heritages where we might have some Native American, but even that's kind of like inconsequential to some degree. And unfortunately, not unfortunately. Well,
and when you say Native American, are you speaking of like what they classify as like Native American, Alaskan Native on like the census, like that phenotype in person?
Like when I say Native American, I'm talking about like the 474 recognized federally recognized tribes. Mm-hmm. Those folks. And in addition to that, like white. I think it's always like every 4 years when the Olympic happens and we're doing the 100-meter race. Like for me, I see nothing but West Africans from America, Jamaica, England, all running the 100-meter. And like if you're going to deny the genetics that had to take place for all those people to look the same, all the fast twitch muscles that went into that, like I'm just saying, like I don't know how anyone thinks that like the brothers you see in Ghana and Nigeria are any different than the brothers you see here. Like
the West Coast of Africa. Okay. So all right. So in essence, you're on the stance that in general, blacks are some version of a derivative of descendants of Africans from probably like the West Coast of Africa.
Not derivatives, they are West African.
Nah.
So I mean, of course, you also put in Native Americans or American Indians, and and you also put it like just slave master had fun also, all that different shit. But
Hey, I
in
got a
general,
question.
because I think that there is, as I'm looking at the comments, and I want to throw the alley oop to Trey. There's some people that would also say that Native Americans were also, like, the original Native Americans were black as well, and that's a consistent narrative within the FBA community. Trey, I'll throw you that alley oop, and I'll let you kind of like get into some version of unpacking.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I'm gonna answer this question, but real quick, I'm gonna Alice. I was curious if you've done like any of your own research, or you just like got what you got from like schools and everything. But my bad. Let me answer your question. But that's so. I know that there were Black Americans in America before slavery. I know this for a fact because there's archaeological evidence and there's evidence in museums of Black people.
Did you send me something over?
Yeah, I sent you plenty of a bunch of pictures from museums showing Black people. And the original explorers all said that there were Black people that came here. Every continent on the globe had Black people there originally. America is no different. And we have to think, who told us we're from Africa? Is it the same people that colonized us, who raped, pillaged, and murdered us and everything like that, and gave us started germ warfare, and then set the dolls on us, fed us those, and enslaved us? And the people that stand to benefit from having us believe we're from Africa? In the white public education system. So if that's all you're going based on, then you really don't have, as far as being a part of this conversation, you're not really, like, with all due respect, you're not like qualified for the discussion unless you've done your own research.
Okay.
All right. So before we Alex. So I'm gonna let you respond directly after this. I'm gonna just share what Trey has sent in, and it'll go directly to you. So these are some of the pieces of, just research and things that he wanted to be shared. Trey, as I go through it, just let us know what we're looking at really quickly.
Okay, real quick. This is just Frederick Douglass, and it shows where even during his time, the Black Native Americans here, they claimed this as their native lands. They had no camaraderie or connection with Africa, and this is in like over 100 years ago. This is some of the original maps that we have here that where they were in Florida, like some of your people. They show that they were here presently in Florida when the Europeans first arrived.
Okay, and you're speaking about like skin tone on the people in the image. This is
exactly. This is a picture of this article from 1847 where they're calling these dark melanated people Mayans. So the Mayans that we know.
But this picture is not from 1847.
I mean, the article is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the article goes into more detail, but the
okay,
picture,
got you.
Yeah. This is some artifact of Black Aboriginal that was in North America.
I know Kodak Black if I ever seen it.
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, so this goes back before European contact. This is another picture from Mexico where it shows the paintings inside an Indian, house or something like that, and it shows all Black people in there.
Okay.
And this is the definition of American from the 60 census. It should show somewhere in that screenshot. But regardless, it says Native American originally applied to the Aboriginals and copper-colored races found here by Europeans, but now applied to the descendants of Europeans born in America. That was the original Webster definition before they changed it because it suited their narratives to not believe that we're from America.
Okay. All right. So now, as I said, Alex, I want to make sure I give you the floor.
I think what happens a lot of the time is historically when they came over here, I'm talking about Columbus and them, to kind of go to what Trey was saying, when they got here, they said, wow, look at these colored people. I think people need to understand what colored meant back then. Colored meant anybody not white, anybody not Anglo-Saxon. So when you went on the island of Hispaniola and you see a bunch of Kerouacs and Tainos and all these other native people, yeah, that's what you're going to call them. You're going to call them colored people. But were they African? That's the question that I would like to ask, because as someone who grew up in the Caribbean, what we learned was, hey, you're African. You're not Caribbean. You're not Taino. You're not Arawak. You're not any of these things. You're African who just so happens to be here. The reason for that being, for as long as I lived in the Caribbean, I went to Puerto Rico, St. Croix, St. Thomas, St. John, the whole nine. I have yet to see a native Taino person. Reason being, when pretty much people from the old world came over here, that's why they died. Like they didn't have the immunities to withstand all the diseases that came over here that they never were in contact with before. And then to say that these people were like black, it kind of like it leaves a lot of like conundrums in history that doesn't make any sense. Why were all the, like what? Why did this transatlantic slave trade happen? Why did all these boats come and port in the Caribbean and Brazil and set up shop?
Right. Most of them didn't go to North America. Only 4% of the whole slave trade went to North America, and that's a total of 400,000 people over 400 years. So that doesn't even mathematically make sense for all these people in North America to be in the slave trade. Well, again, only 400,000.
Unless they was getting bread.
So, like, just to clarify for everybody at home, I do tech. Nobody here is an archaeologist, genealogist, or anything like that. So just take what we say with a grain of salt. What I encourage everybody to do is go read for yourself. Like, don't take my word for it. I am Alex. Don't take my word for it. But really, you're not discrediting me. You're discrediting numerous black scholars throughout. Yes, you are. Throughout centuries.
This book is the original people that came here. I suggest everyone read that. It talks about the original explorers.
Raise the book up so they can see who wrote it.
Oh, so you're going to discredit it? It says white men, and it's quoting their journals, bro. So you're telling me the explorers that came here originally, who said that they were black people that look Ethiopian, you're saying that you know better than they do?
No, Trey, you're not listening. I'm not
but
saying
they also
that
enslaved Native Americans. Did you know they enslaved Indians? The Yamasee War in the 1700s was over them putting indigenous black Americans. We're talking about how the black people here that they met were enslaved, and they were black, and they're on the same plantations that I come from. And you're telling me that I guess they all disappeared, even though there were millions and millions of people on this continent. That instead of using the black people here on this continent, they went and brought them all in boats where most of them died, even the Europeans.
Trey, what literally happened a few years ago? Did a pandemic not happen? Do you not know how like sickness happens? Do you not know how?
I know 80% of them died, but that all of them did not die.
So let me get this straight, Trey.
Died?
Let me hold on. Let's just unpack this.
Who told you you're from Africa?
Trey, I'm not going down this rabbit hole with you. We live in a country built. No, like if we're going to do this, we live in a country built off of capitalism, built off of exploiting labor to build this country.
Yourself.
No, I'm not.
There's already labor here. How would the African know how to?
Trey, like if
y'all gotta let each other finish the talk. Yeah,
it's like every time I talk, like you want to talk over me. If I don't make any sense, does that mean not make sense then?
Because you're not even.
Give it.
My bad. I'm pull up the counter. So in essence, we'll try and keep it within like a minute and a half per person. I'll give y'all this whenever we get too long. Hey, and I also say, hey Johnny, I'm gonna need you to talk a little bit. Stop being safe over in the corner. But Alex, it's on you.
All right, so let's talk about it, right? If you're talking about, hey, where did all these people come from? Why would they enslave people over here? Why didn't they just enslave the people here? So let's get this straight. Slavery in the New World started in the Caribbean first, and when they came over here, I need y'all people to understand, they didn't come over here to set up shop. They came over here to find gold. That's literally why they came over here. That's why they call it the West Indies. They literally thought they was going to find a quick way to India to go get some gold and trade spices. When they got here and realized, wait a second, this isn't India. This is somewhere else. Okay, well, we still going to get that gold anyway. And pretty much like they weren't here to enslave the Native Americans who were on the Caribbean islands. They were here to slaughter them, kill them. I'm talking about Columbus. I'm talking about Cortez. That's why they're not here anymore. So what didn't kill them off through, be quiet, Trey. What didn't kill them off through this sheer brutality killed them off through sickness.
30 seconds.
Let's move back over to America now. How did we get here? Well, they tried to do it with the Native Americans. That didn't work. Then they try to set up shop with the indentured servants. that didn't work because how do you enslave somebody who looks like you, who can blend in? So who do you go to? Naturally, you go to the African. Why? They are from the same old world that you're from. They have the same immunities that you have, and they're dark skinned. They can work in the heat, and then they move them over here. So if you're saying that the millions and millions of black people who are in the Caribbean, South America, and North America just so happen to be here, that don't listen to me. That is it's incompatible with the general consensus of archaeology, genealogy, and all historical facts. But you got one book, so I guess that kind of debunks the entire academia when it comes to human migrations to this country.
Well, you said one book. Here's another book too.
Oh, two books. Oh, wow.
Well, I mean, but what really happened was you said the first thing you said that wasn't true is that his goal was to kill all the natives. The first thing they did, and I also have Christopher Columbus's journal over there too, so that's the third book. And I have more too, but that's just the third one I'm referencing.
Ooh,
and he said
books.
The first thing that I still have more than 3. Like I got like at least like 10 to 15 books. I also have the American Holocaust. But these are all thick books that go into detail. At some point, like once you read everybody saying the same thing, then like what else do you need? But one thing you said that wasn't true is Columbus forced the Native Americans to work the gold mines initially. And he also brought Black Americans back to Europe, and then he showed them to the Pope, and that's when the Pope did the papal
Black
bull.
Americans or Native Americans?
Black natives. And I have pictures of the original depictions of that as well. And he showed Black people that he brought to the Pope, and the Pope did the papal bull, which declared all people that over there to be slaves, and that kicked off the slave trade. And also, Columbus brought Moorish, used Moorish ships and Moorish mats, and he had Hebrew-speaking translators that he brought with him over to America too, because there was already intercontinental travel before white people. It's like people think that until white people came around, we had absolutely nothing. So and also there was the Virginia Slave Code where they said that all Indians and everyone that's not white, they're considered slaves and they're Black. They also had Walter Plecker, who went through all the Black people where it says mulatto on your birth certificate. He forced them to, if it said Indian, he forced them to change their birth certificate to make it say Black. And also they would put people in prison in Virginia for claiming to be Black. So that's my Black American heritage over here, and this clear-cut evidence and documented examples of them removing that lineage. So for you to sit up here and say that none of that happened, when I can tell you specific people and what they did that you can look up right now, or you can just stay committed to what you learned from white curriculum. So
white people wrote Black history. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, bro. You haven't heard of the indoctrination camps where they put the Indians in Catholic schools and force them to re-educate them? Yes, that's what they do all the time. They re-educate people and they remove their culture and they remake them into their Indian. One quote they said, "Kill the Indian, keep the what it says, kill the Indian, keep the man," or something like that. So basically, they were. And they also, what's up?
No, can I hop in here real quick? I want to get some clarity because I think we may be talking about the same thing. You said the FBA is from the Africans that came to this country for the slave trade, correct?
No.
Or
FBA is an amalgamation of the Moors that were here, the natives that were here, the Africans. Some Africans did come in the slave trade. I'm not denying the slave trade.
Okay.
And the white Europeans that we mixed with as well. So we're a mixture of all those things.
I said that wrong, but the Indian people that were here, the Aboriginal Black people that were in the Americas before, Christopher Columbus and them came to this country, the Black people that Christopher Columbus found, or whoever it was, Americo Vespucci, whoever they found, those Black people, where did they come from? Because I think we've even talked about certain texts that show similarities to those ancient Indian cultures and the ancient African cultures that were going on pre the transatlantic slave trade. So I think when we're saying, like, I think there may be some confusion because I think some people are referring to those Aboriginals as still African because that's where civilization started, and a lot of those people came over as Africans way before the transatlantic slave. And but they're still originated in Africa. A lot of those cultures and customs that they had have translated from Africa over to South America, over to North America. And I think a lot of people are talking about that when they're saying we're still African because that's where it originated, way before a lot of this history.
A couple things I want to correct. First, Columbus never came to North America, like where the United States. He was in the Caribbean and South America.
Or whoever it was. Yeah, they found black people when they got here. Whoever it was.
And they did, right. And another thing, the oldest skeletal remains in North America are black people. So this whole, and also the out of Africa theory was started by a eugenicist white supremacist. So we have to consider the source with a lot of these topics.
But you don't think those people came from Africa, like the ancient African culture, even like the culture of the West Africa and like West Africa culture.
Some of them did, yes.
And you see how it's translated over to like Mayan culture or Inca, or I don't know all the stuff, but there's been translation from ancient African cultures to ancient native cultures in the Americans, and it still all originate from Africa. I think that's what a lot of people saying, and I think that's why there is some importance to the Pan-African having these allies, is because when it all boils down, there was one common thing about the people who either came here over from slavery or that were here originally, and we were darker people.
Let me just interject here too, because I don't like comparing like what Native Americans got from the U.S. government to what people who are foundational Black Americans, like it's completely different beef. One, we talked about whatever that list of federally documented tribes. A lot of niggas own slaves. Yeah, those Native American tribes. So like they are just as in debt and guilty to they owe us as much as America to that degree, because they had slaves and they migrated with their slaves when the whole Trail of Tears and all that, when everybody started moving west, they picked up and packed up with their slaves and took them out west. So there's a lot at play as to how these foundational Black Americans are seemingly marginalized, not just by the big dog like America, but also by the other marginalized groups. Like we're not even like the second in order. It's like, even if it's always been that case. It's like even before they created whiteness, like the Italians and Irish knew they were better than the Blacks. The Native Americans know they're better than the Blacks, and everybody participated in owning. Like my mother's side has an Irish name. There's a place, my wife's family is from a place called Scotland Neck. Them niggas was Scottish. It's like, it's all types of examples of different populations participating in American slavery. And I think that needs to be like ironed out too, because it's not just about if you were from Africa or not. Like the fact of the matter is that if you looked a certain way, you could get enslaved. And then the other piece I want to point out is that there's a movie that came out recently, Killers of the Flower Moon. It's a long movie, but it is fire. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because it's about that Osage tribe. And, white people, the nuance in which they created race and color and black and white, like the Osage people that they reference in that movie, like the actual figure, the main character, the way she's depicted in the film is a very fair-skinned woman. But if you look at her actual picture, she looks like Johnny P. And I'm not even kidding you. And so real Native Americans they weren't just red, they were deep copper. Like it was a very deep tone to their skin that I don't think a European would necessarily know like that much difference of a this or that. It's like, it's a very deep reddish brownish color. And I think that's where some of this confusion is too, is like, the way that I look versus the way Johnny P looked, like it didn't matter if one was from Africa or not. Like
Right.
you're black, you're gonna get enslaved. Where you're from doesn't matter, and that was like the fight that people were facing. It was really about how you look, not so much about where you're from.
You just hit on a lot, man.
Right. So I guess a couple things real quick. Housekeeping would be shout out to, I think we're at somewhere near like 70 live viewers at the moment.
Watching right now.
Right. So shout out to y'all. One thing we're gonna try and save maybe the last 10 minutes if y'all are still with us. We're gonna do live in callers. Y'all can give us your perspective on what we've said so far. Like I said, we'll do that around the last like 10 minutes. We're gonna probably go for another maybe 30 minutes or so. And I'll continue to move the conversation. I got tapped out for a quick second. Hopefully y'all haven't hit on this. But as we speak on delineation, do you think that there is a fair case and is truth to the fact that FBA, black people in general, are its own unique ethnic group, ethnogenesis, it's no different than like Jamaican, Haitian, Caribbean, XYZ, and should be treated as such?
We gotta be, man. Like, otherwise, like, no other group allows. Like, if we want to protect our brand, not protect our brand, but anything, like our culture, whenever they make a movie about the mob, they go talk to the mob. Like, right now, we're in a situation where we have a person who makes a movie playing Harriet Tubman, and then she plays it the way the white people wanted to do it. Like, Key and Peele had a skit where they had like a black American, and they were like, play a thug. And he was like, acting like, you know what I'm saying, like he knows people like he might have grew up with, and they had an African with a British accent. It's like, no, do it like he did it. And then you know what I'm saying, we can't, if we don't delineate and represent our own culture, then we end up with Fat Joe saying that hip hop was created by blacks and Latinos 50-50 types. You know what I mean? So I think we owe it to ourselves to make sure that we do not let our lineage get mixed out to the fact that we're just one big African, because you can't.
Can I ask you a follow-up question as well? So a common detractor to like that concept that I've seen in general, from whether it's Pan-African or whoever else, maybe it's B1, I don't know. They tend to call FBA assimilationists, and that they suffer from Stockholm syndrome. What do you think about that?
I think that's a projection, because they're the ones that are still colonized by colonizers that aren't even present on their, like the colonizers work from home, and they do the bidding of the colonizer for them. Meanwhile, over here, we coined the phrase Black Power, and we coined Pan-Africanism. So I can't.
So do you think that like assimilating? Well, I guess if I'm gonna try and like make their point as best as I could, FBA would then be somewhat isolating yourself away from the diaspora, in which it then would mean that you are assimilating to pretty much the dominant American society to an extent. In which, you say no?
I don't think
because
we're
I mean it's still. You say what?
I don't think we're adopting their culture, because whatever we do it our own way. Like, we're not eating cauliflower.
But it's still under the guise of whether you want to call it white supremacy, capitalism, or whatever like branch of American structure that controls the people.
But they imitate us though more than we imitate
through capitalism.
Them. And I'm saying like our style, our culture, our music,
like,
our
is
food.
this like the Trey show? Like, man, like what?
Oh, my bad.
You gotta break it up, bro.
But I feel like I've done the most research on Native Americans.
No, you just get to talk the most. Like,
you think so?
You said, hey, like who is like?
Do you know who Walter Plecker is?
So hold on, pause real quick. I guess I feel as though in chat.
Because you just
yes,
said
of
that.
course I do.
So like tell me again.
Do you know who Walter Plecker is? Do you know what the Dow's roles are? All right, what did Walter Plecker do?
What is that relevant to the conversation we're having right now?
Because he erased our identity, and we're talking about our identity, and you don't even know who did it. So do you know of the Virginia Slave Code where they reclassified us?
The Virginia Slave Codes, when the Barbados pretty much set up the same thing that had in Barbados. Bro. Yes, it does. But you don't know that. So what point are you making?
Bro, the Virginia slave codes, when they said
So
that Aboriginals that are in Virginia are reclassified as
where the
Negroes.
original slaves that were in the Virginias, Carolinas, and Georgia came from?
Some of them came from the islands of the Caribbean, but there were also black people already here. And you're denying that, even though there's evidence to the contrary that you discount.
Okay, but like the problem you have is like you keep straw manning. Like I didn't say that there weren't black people here. I'm saying
so we were here. Okay, then. So what do you
gotta let
why you gotta be disingenuous, bro? Like don't you can't your argument stand on their own merit?
Because I'm my bad.
What am I trying to do?
I'm not trying to attack you, man, because I guess it's difficult for me to, when I've done a lot of research on this, and then when people tell me that when I just read isn't true, and what they got is based off what they've done like through K through 12, that I had that as well. It's like you have to, if I give you a new fact that you haven't heard of, and I want you to consider it without falling back into the original conclusion. Otherwise, it's like, what's the point of like, it's like it's on deaf ears. If I tell you that about the Dawes Rolls, you know what the Dawes Rolls were, right?
Explain.
All right, the Dawes Rolls were when they allowed only white people to sign up to be $5 Indians. And that's where they got signed up for the 5 civilized tribes. And to be a 5 civilized tribes, all of whom fought for the Confederacy, in order to be considered that, you had to practice slavery and give up your lineage. And also, there were 500 tribes in America. It wasn't just the 5 civilized tribes. So, I mean, I'm not trying to overtalk or anything. My bad. I don't mean to be hostile, but it's just a lot of information that I feel like I'm trying to share, and then you're just not really trying to hear it.
That's
just
not
true.
I literally just asked you a question. But the fact of the matter is, like, Trey, are you saying, so, because I'm here to listen, are you saying that the tribes that we see now in current day, are you saying that those are the $5 pretendians?
The ones that are white with straight hair that can get hair lice, yes, they were not here they weren't here when the first colonizers got here.
But I imagine you're when Alex is saying that, you're speaking about the people that they identify as American natives and Alaskan, whatever, the Indians or some shit like that. I don't know what like the people with that specific. If we want to get into like whatever, I forget what it's called, but the mongoloid phenotype or whatever the shit is. That's what he's more so referring to.
They came over the land bridge. I think it was around when they were fleeing like Genghis Khan and Mongolians. There were multiple waves that came to America. It wasn't just that one that came over the land bridge. And when they came here, there were black people already here. And how do you explain the Olmecs? Because they don't look Mongolian in those statues.
So I'm glad you brought that up. There were black people here. There were the Khoisans from South Africa. They were here. But what I'm asking you, Trey, but I think what we disagree on is the amount that were here from just straight up just migrating pre-Columbus, and the amount of people who were here due to the slave trade. I think that's where we disconnect. I'm not saying what you said didn't happen. I think that's what I really wanted.
Black people are the original people on this continent. Indians, we're the most popular people here. The red natives that you talk about team with white supremacists against us and subjugate and enslave us. But we've always been here, bro.
Wait, Trey. No, I'm not saying that we haven't always been here. What I'm asking you is, to what extent? Like, if you had to do like I don't know, let's pick a time. So the cutoff is 1800, right? How many black people do you think were here through the transatlantic slave trade? And how many black people do you think were here due to just Pangea migration over, not Pangea migration, just
talking about the land bridge up there in Alaska.
No, not even that, because that's not even
what that is, Pangea. Yeah,
African pre-Columbus migration, not to do with slavery. If this percentage-wise, that's all I want to know.
I wouldn't call them African, but I think that there were way more black people on this continent before European contact than there were after. And a lot of them did get wiped out. I think there were 80 million, but I think like.
So how much of like FBA, if we was like to throw like FBA being descendants of previous American black Native Americans, or I guess like continental Africans that were brought over here as slavery. If you was to give just a basic broad general like percentage, would you say that like 90, no, I don't know, let's say 60% was Native Black Americans? Or would you say like 85, 95, 97% was continental Africans? I think that's more so what you're asking, correct, Alex?
Yeah, because like I just want to make sure that there's a delineation between dark melanated people, because there's like I work with a lot of Indian, brothers and sisters, and they're darker than me, and like I'm pretty sure if you saw us at a glance like 1,000 years ago, you would have think both of us were African or both of us were Indian from a distance. So I think that's why.
So Alex, I love to hear, not Alex, Trey, I love to hear your percentage wise. What do you think?
I think a very small percentage of us are full like African, like with no admixture at all. I think
I think everybody agrees with that, because of like the American foundation of Black person is almost like a mixture of like whether you it's a mixture of everything, but the original ancestor that is Black, that's more so to what we're talking about. The original ancestor that is Black, wherever it started at, like the Black part, was it already? Do you think most people's original ancestor that was Black was a native of America, in what percentage, or was a native of continental Africa at what percentage?
If I had to estimate, I would say upwards of 80% of us have a lineage that starts in this continent and not in the slave trade. The vast majority of us trace the people who were already here, based on archaeological and firsthand evidence from the journals that people came here originally and what they said. It's only been recent that, like, if you ask our grandparents and grandparents, they're not going to say that they're from Africa. They're going to say that they're indigenous. A lot of FBAs, if you have grandparents that grew up in America, they'll say that you have the Indian hair. They also reclassified them as mulattoes. So if you have a birth certificate that says mulatto, then there's a likelihood that you didn't come straight from Africa as a mulatto. You would have had to get darker at that point.
But
so
just to jump in here, like,
yeah, I don't know if like genetically and phenotype wise that makes sense.
I don't think we look.
I think this is why, like, just to jump in, Trey, like I get what you're saying, but if you think that 80% were here, like that's what is kind of incongruent with what we experience today. And I'm interested to hear what you have to say, because the majority of Black people, majority of white people, the majority of people here who take DNA tests, hardly, like, I think this is like 1 out of 20 has any significant Native American DNA. So
there's flaws with that, bro. I mean, you're talking about DNA tests. Like, I saw where they swabbed the lizard. I sent a video. I mean, we don't have time for that. But they swabbed the saliva from a lizard and sent it in, and it said that they were like Jewish and European and all that. And then the guy within the video was saying it's for entertainment purposes only. And unless you're digging up
they say the DNA tests are for entertainment purposes only.
Yeah, they can't tell you what tribe you're from. Like, what's one of the videos I sent? And also, unless you're digging up the remains.
I actually want to look that up. Do you know which was that, like Ancestry.com? Where was what brand was this?
23andMe, I believe, but
all right, let me
double check.
But like, that's just okay. I'll give you DNA tests. But what about the genealogists who get paid to go look up your family history, and the majority of them are like, nope, I don't see him here. Like that. It's like if anything, it's a common thing among genealogists. Of like, let me guess, you got Cherokee. Let me guess, you're Choctaw. And this doesn't apply to Black people. It applies to Black people, white people, everybody. It's like a common thing. And I don't think that all these people who have dedicated their lives, this is what they do for a living. I don't think they're all coming to the consensus that it's rare, if hardly ever happens, that anyone outside of the Native Americans that we kind of, I guess, in grand understanding, know who the Native Americans are. I don't know, man. Like, I
think we do, and then I'm telling you like specific examples where they reclassified us and they said that we were already here. For one, and also we both have scientific backgrounds. So if we look at the experiment and you're comparing us to the people that are there now, then that's different than saying that comparing us to the people that were there like 1,000 years ago. So unless you go dig up skeletal remains and check the DNA of who was there, there's no way to prove like what are you even comparing. You get what I'm saying? If they brought because the slave trade was a triangle. So if they brought some people from America to the Gold Coast of Africa, and those are the ones they're using to compare us to, they're going to say we're from Africa. But if they dig up the skeletal remains there in comparison, that might have a different result. Same if you compare us to the black skeletal remains that are in America and we match those, that's more of a solid test. You get what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying, Trey, but like, how do you explain the oral history, like the well-known oral history?
I'm telling you the oral history. Where like everyone's grandma. I'm not sure if you have an FBA grandmother, but a lot of us grew up with a grandmother saying we had Indian hair. Like they weren't.
All right, so
saying
let me ask you. I guess I want to hop in on that really quickly. I had a point or a question towards that. Because of like in saying that typically what they're speaking about is a phenotype that is of the people that you said were not. That came over Pangea's land bridge and all that shit. So like that wouldn't be congruent with the idea of being original black natives or aboriginals of America. If they're saying that they look like the Alaskan quote unquote Hispanic, whatever.
Right, but they're saying the oldest remains that they found in America are Negro.
I know, I guess, but I guess I'm just saying to the point of where you're at, because you said like what our great grandparents would be talking about is Alaskan Native Americans.
I don't know if that's
when you say you have hair like Indian, what does that usually mean? It's the phenotype in which that they're talking about. Same difference as because I think you referenced like lighter skin and tone and shit like that too. Like that's the phenotype of those people. Like whether you believe that those are the real or not, but that's typically whenever they're speaking about that, they're speaking of that specific phenotype, not the phenotype in which would be derivative of an Aboriginal black native.
I think that there were people here with straighter hair. I don't think that just every black people have different hair types. It's not all like the Nigerian hair type here. Like even John.
No, so do you think that in 19?
Wait, but like, do you think like a Aboriginal Australian? Like, do you think that like do you think they're African?
The Niger where and what like the Fiji Islands?
Like the Aboriginals in Australia.
Australian, Aboriginal Australian, someone from Fiji, someone from Philippines who's really dark skinned, I guess like with like last week's big word that we all kind of learned with ethnogenesis. Like at what point does like someone who came out of Africa, which everybody kind of did, and migrated to wherever they migrated and pretty much were there for thousands of years to the point that they kind of like, have their own subset of DNA and I guess
technically Caucasians are African, right? I don't know.
Yeah, technically.
But I'm saying, but that's what I'm saying. Like that's how loose the trail is.
I think
that's how loose the trail is of what you're saying.
I think there's a difference though. Like I don't know how real that is, but I'm like the Neanderthal Homo sapien thing. But.
Oh, you going Yaku?
Because like
you a wild boy.
But like that's all. I think you brought a good point. Like when do you what's it cut off from? All right. This dark person migrated to this part, and now they're this. Like for me, like I think that like the people who migrated here, like if you're just going to claim that everybody is African, fine. But at some point in time, like they did like a distinct evolution and mutation happened to the point that like their hair doesn't defy gravity anymore. Their noses don't look like our noses. Their lips don't look like our lips. And in addition to that, like the Khoisan tribe that was like kind of migrated over here. Like the people who are still there in South Africa today and were over here as well, like the native populations that we see today kind of drove them out, like just through DNA, not just DNA, but like just through like, I don't know, like sheer population number, the same thing that happened in the Caribbean. Like,
so you're saying the whole North American continent got wiped out by that tribe? Because it's two big continents right there. So I'm sure there was still some of the original people there. Or are you saying they all got wiped out and replaced?
Not wiped out and replaced. What I'm saying is like that's just like, for instance, right? If you're Jamaican, you were there during the Tainos and when they were all there. There were still Tainos there when the slave ships dropped Jamaicans off there. But to say that there are Tainos there, no, you wouldn't say that. Like, does Taino blood live on into the black descendants that live there still? Yeah, but barely. It's kind of inconsequential. And kind of like how like we live on a planet, all the other planets look like our planet. It's like if this happened in all these islands, and in great part, a lot of the Gullah and Geechee coaches, the Gullah and Geechee in South Carolina, why is it hard to believe that that's pretty much what happened throughout the entire North America during the slave trade?
I mean, I wouldn't say anything is hard to believe, but I would like to, like any hypothesis that you have should have some supporting evidence. And I'm telling you that they've said that there were black people here, and those black people got reclassified. This is well documented. So,
but are you using black in the modern way that we use black when we're talking about obvious?
They said they look
like the way they use
in the picture they're black. I don't know why it seemed like you're trying to do gymnastics to say that they weren't the same when they said that they look black and they look.
No, I'm asking you questions.
I think I'm copper colored.
Would you consider a modern day Indian person black?
The people the $5 Indians that are on the Dow's Road.
No, not Indian, not Indian. I'm talking about someone from Bharat, like Indian in Southeast Asia. That Indian, would you consider
that
black?
Dark skin? I mean, yeah. they have like white hair types, and they have like
South Indian.
Yeah, so I mean, like they're not phenotypically like the original people.
But like, you see what I'm saying? Like even like today, like a South Indian who is darker than me and an African, you would still make the distinction that, well, this brother who's dark from here and this brother from Somalia who's East African, and this brother from West African who looks like this, and this brother from South Africa who looks like that. You make those distinctions.
Or from Cambodia.
Cambodia, Vietnam, Laos.
Like it's some dark skin. Whatchamacallit?
Yeah, black people inhabit the whole globe at one point.
Right, but that keeps going. That's the Pan-African perspective of it, though.
I don't even know if
like you're adopting a version of Pan-Africanism to make the FBA point.
Around.
Bro, I've been in the weeds. I've seen evidence that the original people came, like some of the oldest animals are in America. Some of the oldest foods are in America. Some of the foods that they eat in Africa came from America. So for all we know, they could have sailed from America to Africa. It's like, even look at these pyramids who knows how long these pyramids have been here.
Oh, you think that like Africans are actually, you don't believe in like the motherland thing in general. Like you think society started in America?
I'm seeing evidence of that, yes. So I'm just saying I'm not so quick to adopt what I've been taught when there's evidence. I want to interpret that for myself. And if I see evidence where the original people over there said that they
so
came
like older than like the earliest human remains that was found in like up there near Ethiopia and shit like that.
I've heard carbon dating can say all kinds of things. The best way you can date something is if you have like a tree that's a certain age and you know that there's no way possible that it could have been there, or like rock erosion, like things that are like natural. But carbon dating with X-ray, that's been debunked many times.
I think I want to just add in like we as humans, Homo sapiens, a scientific term for all the people, no matter what you are, we kind of evolved alongside other humans, like the Derivians, Homo erectus, Neanderthals, all of that. Like
it all kind of comes from the crater. But you don't believe in like the idea that like everything was like a central continent either, and then it broke off?
I believe in the sons of Noah. I don't want to get too much into the biblical thing.
Oh, okay.
I think that.
But didn't all that happen over inside like the northern African region? Wouldn't that still be like the northern African region, not America?
No, it depends, man. Because if you look at,
so you think like the real Israel is inside America?
I mean, there's evidence of that as well. Because if you look at the hieroglyphs in the Grand Canyon that they don't explain, and you look at how I think the Vatican hides resources and not resources, they hide artifacts in the what they call it, the Vatican, for a reason.
So let me ask you this: what do you judge your burden of proof off of?
I think you have to consider all the sources that you have and then come to a logical conclusion, rather than just like go about what you've been told. And there's clearly been a narrative that has been put onto us, and there's been evidence that's been hidden, and we know they're hiding evidence. So why we believe what they tell us is like, I don't understand the logic behind that. And then
So,
like in
general, it would be like more so like a worldwide conspiracy to hide that like civilization started in America, but instead in Africa. I guess we'll be like the reason behind having like that worldwide conspiracy.
Man, it's really
Yo.
Columbus brought Hebrew translators with him when he came to America. They were speaking Hebrew here. Like it's well documented. I think they were called the Nino brothers. And also they had the Grave Creek stones, which was the Ten Commandments they found in Ohio, and it was written in Paleo Hebrew. So like, what do you make of all that? Like, why would they, if they enslaved the Hebrews and they wanted to change their identity and make them think that there was something else, like, like that's why we do have secret societies. We do have Vatican hiding artifacts. We do know that the Vatican orchestrated the slave trade, and we do know that they benefited from it. And then
gotcha. So if I was to ask you to give like, so if you had to stake a claim on a side, you would say that Black Americans really don't have any relation to Africans at all, outside of maybe they came from us. Is that what you're saying?
Only relation I would say we have with them is that we're both being exploited by like colonizers.
Oh, so no relations for real, besides for like white supremacy.
Yeah, I think we're both under white supremacy. But like I said in the chat,
but that's it.
It's a theory. It's a theory. That they call it a theory.
That we came out, like, you talking about like that slaves came out of Africa, or that like civilization came out of Africa?
Wait, before we go any further, like, do y'all know that gravity is a theory? Like, do y'all know what theory means? Like, theory.
Oh, well, I understand what all of this means, but I'm only exploring like the funnest conversation that's happening at the moment.
A theory
but
isn't like like your assumption. Like, it's your working explanation of how something happens. So, like, gravity is a theory. Evolution is a theory. Physics is a theory. Like, I don't know how you use the word theory, but like,
I believe facts and evidence, bro. And if I know that Columbus brought Hebrew translators over here, there are Black people already here. I know that he used Moorish maps. I know that after the Spanish Inquisition, they forced a lot of the Black people that were there into Africa, and they initiated the slave trade. Just so happens to be right after the Moors.
Do you believe that the slavery trade, the transatlantic slave trade happened in reverse?
Happened in reverse. I don't think it happened.
They took black people from here and then like pretty much kidnapped and put them in Africa. Is that, because that's one of the things I've heard too. Is that something that you subscribe to, or is that other people who believe?
Yeah, I guess I'm trying to understand how can all this, like this entire theory work. Like I'm trying to understand like the string that ties it all together. Because it seemed like it will have to be a lot of like working factions being willfully ignorant of a lot of things, and then like a global cabal of sorts that are like pushing a need for Africa to be the cradle of a civilization, in which like it seems that white people tend to want to make sure that we don't believe that anyway. So like I'm trying to see who's benefiting and who's in power to like push this theory and make it make sense.
Man, we see this all the time. Like when we think about, we just recently.
I'm just asking who would benefit from this?
The same people that told us Columbus discovered America, and the same people that told us that Africa.
Well, that's like white Europeans. They always try and whitewash history, but right now that wouldn't be white. But saying that everybody came from Africa, and that being like where the burden of like scientific information lies at right now, would be saying that everybody's black. So like Europeans don't benefit from that. Like that's what they keep trying to make sure. Like that's why they knock the nose off the Sphinx.
I think they do benefit for that.
Like that's why they knock the nose off the Sphinx. That's why they make every single Egyptian white. Like they whitewash history in general, so that like there's no real benefit for Europeans to do that, because of like they don't want to give black people credit for shit. So like who's benefiting inside like the global cabal of this theory?
If there was a black nation in America, and you were able to convince them that they're Africans, and also tell us that Africans never had anything. It was FBAs that started talking about Timbuktu and all that over there. So if you can tell us that we came from nothing, we've never been anything, all we are is Africans, and we never had anything over here, then we lose our connection to our land. So it benefits them. Like it's easier because what if all black people we just discovered that wow, we were all over here. Then we'd have more of a spirit of like ownership.
But then we would just have a Native American story.
It wouldn't really be
but
that.
But are we? Is the job of history to be accurate, or is the job of history to serve as therapy for identities? Because
I would say it's there to be accurate.
Okay, so if it's there to be accurate, but like if it's there to be accurate, like how do you explain like runaway slaves from South Carolina, like the Gullah, like the Geechee, like these, like if you
or like cultural, like the cultural similarities from the people from Gullah and Geechee and the African tribes in which they came from.
Because like a lot of like African American culture is rooted in social dancing, like even to the day, like Millie rocking, like or the Charleston. It dates all the way back to pretty much the things that we try to keep during slavery and maintain during slavery.
Or like religious and spiritual systems as well. They seem like there was a like direct connection to Western Africa, in which like even deities literally date straight to what they had. I guess what do you say to that? And then we'll start getting close into the call-in section. Hey, shout out everybody in the chat, everybody conversing. Again, this is a good conversation. We're in the weeds for sure. But Trey.
Shout out to Mike TV in the chat. Like you said, we became African American in the 80s because of Jesse Jackson. Like before that, we weren't really big on African Americans. And I saw being called.
But I don't think we're talking about the term anymore. We're talking about like the literal genetic heritage of said term. That's what we're in the weeds of right now.
Oh, I don't think that. I think the more you look into evidence, especially evidence is hidden, and you also keep in the fact that this is the tip of the iceberg, and we know that they're hiding artifacts, you'd have to open. It'd be kind of be foolish to not consider other possibilities. And you have to gather the evidence that you do.
I know, and I don't think that there's anything wrong. Again, this is unpacked. So the idea of this is to gather, and I'm gonna throw it right to you, Alex. Is to gather as much information as possible and like unpack the theory. I guess my only question, and I'm saying this to you, but I'm gonna throw to Alex, is like with all the information that you've gotten, the hidden knowledge, XYZ. So then, who is benefiting from it? But Alex first, and then I'll answer my question.
Like just to kind of push back on what Trey was saying, like since the 1700s, like when black people could and did express themselves, they were trying to express their African heritage.
That's not true.
So how do you explain the African Freemasonic Lodge? Like where did that come from?
Your source is the Freemasons, a secret society that is known for hiding secrets. I mean, that's what you just said. That's your source is the Freemasons.
So who are the like the trustworthy historians that we can trust in any like capacity at all?
Artifactual evidence. There's really, I wouldn't trust the word. I would trust what I can see.
But like, so then is the artifactual evidence like? So what artifactual evidence are you going for the past 600 years?
Whenever they show Indian depictions. And they're depictions of themselves, and they're all black people.
But that's artifacts that's further than 600 years, though, right? Well, like say the Grand Canyon, like the Grand Canyon, like the tribes, and I've heard like the idea that Egypt has came over here, and like they set up a colony in the Grand Canyon. Like there's a bunch of different things that kind of like go within that, but it all still predates like about like 1,000 to 1,500 to 2,000 years, though, correct?
You're saying there's no evidence that's.
I didn't say that at all.
I mean, you're asking if there's more evidence. Is this evidence is more recent than that, or?
Yeah, I'm asking like yes. So what?
Yes.
What thing? Like, what are you using as historical like reference points that are like what historical facts are official, and how do we know how to vet them inside this? Because typically, like what we're hearing is, all right, so this is the thing from this, that, and the third, and it's like nah, but them niggas got other agendas. Or this is stats from here. Nah, them niggas got other agendas. And then you're saying, like, you're giving your information and your reference. I'm trying to understand what makes a thing true in historical context.
I think what makes it true is...
At least within the last 500, 600 years. Because you said archaeological.
Man, I can give you evidence from thousands of years ago, evidence of like a few centuries ago, and I can give you most.
Well, that's what I'm asking for, the few centuries ago thing.
The few centuries ago is not all tribes that lost their roots. So they've been claiming the same thing for the whole time, and they're black. So they've been passing down their oral history, and it doesn't take that long to get to before European contact. Because what this is like 17. This nation was like 1619 is when they first had their failed settlements. So we have the whole like vast space of like coast to coast where we had people that had been there and they didn't get conquered. So if those people maintain their lineage and they're passing it down, then I think that's evidence that a few hundred years ago that they are the black people that were here. And also we know that they were enslaving those black people and putting them on plantations.
Okay.
And that was illegal also. So they were benefited from lying about it. So to answer your question before, like who benefits from the people that were breaking the law by slaving indigenous black people?
They benefit from saying that Africans, but I mean they shitted on Native Americans too. Because like I said, like what you're saying is like the Native American story that we just own the Native American story, and the Native Americans was like immigrants here that stole our history maybe. But hey, Johnny, I need you to say something in the corner. What you got for us, dog? You done heard the conversation. What's your takeaway? And then G, we can't hear you, bro.
I gotta mute it. No, I'm saying like we in the weeds, bro. Like we it's a lot of nuance.
Is black folk majority from Africa, or are they already native Aboriginals? We don't need middle ground, Johnny. We need an opinion. What you got?
Based off everything I've ever read in my life and what I know, I gotta say Africa. But I'm also
that's off
open
cold, bro.
But I'm also
no, I'm joking.
but like I say, I'm fair. You know, I'm also open to where like if I'm presented the information in a compelling enough fashion and I got sources and it's like, you know, it's documented, I can see where somebody could say that, especially if you have the evidence to back it up. So I can't be like, nah, Trey don't know what he talking about. I know bro them like read and like he ain't like pulling this shit up. Like he know what he talking about. So there's documented evidence of this.
I don't think that this conversation is specifically that. I think it's more,
that's all I'm saying.
Go ahead.
It's like I don't have proof either way. Like I'm saying, I got what I've known my whole life, what I've been taught.
I'm just asking opinions, my boy. So your opinion is that what the white folk taught you in world history is true, right? Just making sure.
Is that what your gut tells you to believe the colonizer?
This tough, man. God damn.
All right.
I'm going Africa. I'm going Africa though. I'm going Africa.
Black scholars and researchers.
I'm going Africa.
Stuff like that.
Alex, that all that's in jest. But G.
Yeah, I think at least from my perspective, this term black is where like a lot of the back and forth, because I think there's one side that equates black to African, but then there's another side who would say black is American. It's not an African thing. And I'm of the opinion that black is an American thing, not an African thing. You're not really quote unquote black until you get to America and have the black experience, something you can't get anywhere else. You can't get it in the Caribbean. You can't get it on the continent of Africa. You can't get it in Europe. The black experience is unique to America. You can't get it in Canada either, or Mexico. You got to come to America. And so when we talk about what black means, it doesn't necessarily mean that you were from Africa when you are in America. And when you look at stuff like the artifacts, and when you look at how people are painted, it's not like these niggas had a box of 64 Crayolas and chose the black and was like, let me paint this person black, let me paint this person white. I think what's clear is that the people are dark skinned. There's the pictures that we see in the artifacts, they're not fair skinned Caucasian looking people. They clearly have some melanin to what they do. And so
G, do you think that most FBAs are Aboriginal to America or came over here from probably came over here from Africa. I'll just go with that.
Who knows, like most, because the reality is there were very few Africans shipped to North America from the slave trade. So I think that it's not a unfathomable thought to think that because so few Africans were brought to North America, then the majority of blacks in America didn't necessarily come from Africa via slave trade. I don't think that's such a far-fetched thought. Just
and so do you think? So you think that they were enslaved and assimilated with the African population? Would that be like the thought process there? Then?
Correct. Like once slavery was an institution, then people started getting swept into just the institution of slavery as a whole, regardless of if you actually came off a boat from Africa, if you came here, migrated free from the Caribbean, if you came here, whatever the case may be. Once the institution of slavery existed, if you looked a certain way, it was a brown paper bag test.
Yeah. So let me ask you this then. So I guess building off of that, what would be the benefit of erasing the idea that like blacks were also natives here, and then like superseding that and like placing Native Americans inside that space, and then I guess what will be the benefit of doing that?
I think benefit wise, I think it's just important for anyone to just understand like who they are and what they actually come from, and if this is a truth and we've been lied to, the benefit is knowing the truth about who you are and what you come from, and you take and you do with that what you please. But the benefit is understanding, what the actual facts are. But
wouldn't that take a lot of willful ignorance on the Native Americans' behalf as well, and then they would also be erasing where they came from?
Well, they have been erased. I mean,
But that's what I'm saying. So that's like a negative willful ignorance that has no benefit to them at all, right?
You're talking about the Native American,
like if we say they came from Pangea, like from whether everybody understands the land bridge, so they migrated down from Alaska, and then that whole thing. What would be the benefit for them to say, hey, let's erase our entire history, say that we were here, and then get the shit into the stick, and then make sure that we forget all records of that as well? It seems like it's like a horrible deal.
Yeah, I don't think all Native American tribes are on the same page when it comes to this either. You see what I'm saying? Like some Native American tribes were
I guess the phenotypical, what we phenotypically say is Native American. Maybe that's specifically what I'm talking about. But
for example, Native American tribes in the southeastern part of the United States are not the same as Native American tribes that were up in Montana that were out in the wild old west, because people weren't even there until a certain year when slavery was rampant in the southeast. So you have some Native American tribes who were very much involved in American slavery, but you have some American tribes who weren't even in the fold of what we do until post-slavery, when people started to migrate out west. So it's I don't think all of them really are the same. And in terms of the advantage, it's tough to say, but
oh no, I guess to me, when I think of it, I'm more so speaking about, because yes, there was definitely advantages then to I guess being a Native American, Alaskan, if you came to America from the land bridge and you ain't want to be a slave, you're gonna say, hey, give me something, right? But through the history of how they've been shitted on by America in general, and then the idea that they would just lose all heritage of where they actually came from over maybe, what is that, 3 generations, and nobody wanted to carry that. I guess it seems like an interesting story of willful ignorance.
I think, in my opinion, they want where they came from, right? They want their land, but they don't want to be identified as Black in America. I think that's the benefit.
I know, but where did they come from though? And why would they just willfully forget where they came from? Only within a 3 generation.
I don't know if I'm following.
All right,
They've
so
been here for 10,000s of years. So
right. So
Because
what
like
I'm
we
saying
said,
is
they
that like
came
so
across
if
the-
black people were like the majority of this land when slavery started, that only tracks like 600 years, right?
And when we say black, we're talking about like the tone of your skin, not
The
necessarily
Aboriginal Americans that we're saying that FBA is like possibly devolved from.
Correct.
Yes. So like that group right there. So if they were the majority here, and those are the original Aboriginals of America. So like them migrating, when would they have migrated, and then why would they completely erase their history, and then like supersede this outside of again, we don't want to be slaves, but like completely forget your heritage altogether? Seems like an interesting, willful, ignorant thing that I've never seen any culture do.
And again, it's like, you know, the type of person that lives on the land in Montana is not the same type of person who lives on the land in South Carolina or Georgia. Those are two completely different.
I know they are, but phenotypically they kind of look very similar. They do all carry a lot of the Cambodian feature.
And I think we all agree everybody migrated here at some point off of a land bridge, right? Like that, like
I don't agree with that.
Like is that like, because I'm not sure if I'm following what you're saying, because I don't see them all as the same, because the
I know. So like even with that, like, so why would like the Montana and the South Carolina people of a similar phenotype but have different experiences all still willfully forget their history still?
Because it's not good to be black in America.
But they phenotypically they're not. They don't look black. Never would have looked black.
How like when we say black, like
they're not darker skinned.
People were darker than me.
Hold up, guys. Like just to kind of add in like the historical of it, like there were fugitive laws that the treaties like between treaties of the colonial time colonies and Native Americans, like, hey, if you see any of our slaves run off this plantation, you're obligated to bring them back, and if you don't, you're breaking the treaty. Mm-hmm. So, like, I understand what G is saying, but like, I don't think that Native Americans are denying to be black because it's not cool to be black. Like, I think they just were here the whole time, and like if you think about Shays' Rebellion, they made clear distinctions, like them poor white people, those Native Americans, and them blacks. They got together and try to overthrow us rich white people. We got to do something about it. So like I think there needs to be like, I don't necessarily think that Native Americans that we would think of Native Americans are like, nope, I don't want to be black. I think their history is their history, and they were participants in the good and the bad of our experiences here. But that's all I got to say.
So I was about to say before we continue on, call in. We got less than 15 minutes left on the show. We would love to hear y'all opinions. As you come up, like just simple rules. We're gonna give you pretty much a minute and a half to 2 minutes on a timer to kind of speak, get your piece off. After that, shout out whatever your socials are, whatever you need to, which would be like another 15 to 20 seconds. Then we'll kind of like remove you and bring you back. Bring you off stage. But we'll love for as many people as we can to come in and give their quick opinion. We'll give a quick response to whatever you say after you say it. So again, the stream link is in the chat. I'll post it again. We have Mike TV backstage, so we're going to bring him up and allow him to kind of give his piece.
What's good, Mike?
Hey, shout out to everybody on the panel. Shout out to Trey. Great job standing on lineage. I'm not sure if this is going to count as my time, but I'm just not familiar with the channel. So before I provide any remarks, I kind of wanted to know, like, is everybody on the panel like a Black American, or some of you guys like first generation, second generation immigrants, or?
I think that everybody kind of falls within the Black American. I think
I'm Black American.
Alex has like a unique experience where his parents were Black Americans, and then they migrated to Antigua. And then they migrated back. Correct, Alex?
Yeah, pretty much Virgin Islands. Pretty much what we set up top.
Okay.
All right, so I'm about to push click on the timer. But go ahead. You
and
got it.
also one more quick question before we start the time. Am I able to share any videos or images or anything? I mean, all of them are 10 to 20 seconds each, so it'll definitely still fit within my allotted time.
Do you see the option down there to present?
Yes. Yeah, I'm very familiar with StreamYard.
Yeah, go ahead and load it up, and I can control it on this side.
Okay, for sure. So I'll go ahead and load it real quick, and then if you want to start my time, I'll go ahead and jump straight on into it. But the first clip I'm gonna put there backstage is gonna be Malcolm.
Aborigines, which means what? Black folks. But you never find a white aborigine. Rather, aborigines are called natives, or they're always dark-skinned people. You and I are aborigines, but you don't like to be called an aborigine. You want to be called an American. Aborigine actually means from the beginning. Two Latin words. Ab meaning from, origine meaning the beginning.
If you want to jump straight into the next one, since I'm on the clock.
Shock around the age of 5 or 6 or 7 to discover the flag to which you have pledged allegiance, along with everybody else, has not pledged allegiance to you. It comes as a great shock to discover that Gary Cooper killing off the Indians when you were rooting for Gary Cooper, that the Indians were you. That the Indians were you.
And if you want to go straight,
it comes as a great shock to discover that the country
have to try to be something you're not. Trying to be something I'm not? Trying to be proud of my African heritage? That's being something I'm not, then fine. My grandmother was a full-blooded Iroquois. I know all of that, Mama. They don't know this. I am alive because of the blood of the people who never scraped or begged or apologized for what they were. They asked only one thing of this world, to be allowed to be. It broke my heart when you changed your name. I gave you my grandmother's name, a woman who bore 9 children and educated them all. Who held off 6 white men with a shotgun when they tried to drag one of her sons off to jail for not knowing his place. And you had to reach into an African dictionary to find a name that would make you proud.
All right, so we'll jump into my remarks. First thing I want to address, I believe the host says that what he was seeing or hearing sounds like willful ignorance and nobody abandons their culture. At least he doesn't see that. Hundreds of thousands of illegal migrants do exactly that every day. They abandon their culture. They go from China, from Africa, from deep in South America to across the U.S. border, abandon their culture, abandon their heritage, seeking better opportunities. So, I mean, I don't know how you can say you don't see people abandoning their culture when that happens on the regular. As far as, whether or not we're Aboriginal or whether or not we're from Africa, I think it's more far-fetched claiming that all of us have African ancestry versus it being far-fetched saying that we're native, because again, the official numbers of the transatlantic slave trade say 4% went to North America. The overwhelming vast majority went to South America and the Caribbean, which is where we see the most African presence to this day. Also, I'm not sure if anybody on the panel is familiar with the Virginia slave codes. In 1682, they reclassified us from Aboriginal and called us Negro and other, and they literally jailed us for identifying with our native lineage. So when you say, why would the government make us think we're from Africa? Why would the government let immigrants straight off the boat at Ellis Island pay $5 to be identifying as native? Why would the government say, hey, if you say you're native, we're throwing you in jail? Why would the government rape, kill, pillage us, and do everything else? And we're saying that it's below them to lie about where we come from? The same.
Mike,
the hero, right? Yeah.
I like to have like a quick back and forth with you. No, I think that you're asking questions. I would like, for me, I've also just been asking questions. So I'd love to hear your answer to like those questions. But before that, I guess you made a point to what I was saying, where like, why would those people forget their culture? And then you spoke about immigrants coming into America and like forgetting their culture. But I don't really know of that ever happening. Where like typically all the immigrants that I know that come into America, build replications of their culture within America, especially when they get resources within America. Whether we want to speak about like, you know, Asian town, Chinatown, you want to talk about the Hispanics, and like I'm in Charlotte, so like there's a whole side of town where they have their own malls, they have their own, you know, different things. I don't know of them forgetting their culture as much as going to a space of opportunity to capitalize on capitalism in general. I'd love to hear your response.
I would say more specifically, they flee to America and they quickly and readily assimilate. And part of assimilating is negating or dialing down your native culture. I mean, if we want to talk about Africans specifically, we see them move to the UK, claim they're not African, they're a black Brit. They adopt a
What
UK
are we talking
accent.
about?
If you want evidence, I mean, maybe the host can give me extra time and I can show more evidence, but I have hundreds of Africans that call into me on a weekly basis. So
Ghanaians in Africa and Nigerians in Africa don't claim that they're Nigerian and
before
Ghanaian.
I was interrupted, we have Africans specifically that go to Europe and other countries, start speaking French, start doing anything that they can to fit in, and they do not hold on to whatever traditional African culture that they have. They
30 more seconds,
that at
Mike.
the ready. They discard that at the ready and try to do anything that they can to cozy up next to white adulation.
Chock full of
there's plenty of evidence. And maybe if I wasn't being interrupted while I'm also on a timer, that would be great. But
go ahead and finish off your point.
Oh, no.
I want you to feel free.
It's fine. Clearly, he has something to say, so I would love to yield my time and hear what he has to say.
Alex? Hey, Mike, you kind of fun, man. We rock with you up here, man.
What was that to
Alex?
say? I said what I had to say. What you said was patently untrue.
Which part specifically?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Q. So let's start with what Malcolm X said. When you said Aboriginals, I think this is something that constantly gets misquoted, and we need to understand the historical context of when people said Aboriginal. This is at a time during the Black Power movement, during civil rights, when they were trying to explain to Black people, like, hey, you are Aboriginal, as in the global context, you are the original man. They weren't talking about this. They weren't talking about this continent. But I don't want to take up too much other people's time. I want to hear from other folks.
Gotcha. And Mike, I guess like one last thing, and I'm gonna give you like another 30 seconds because I am rebuttaling something else that you had put up.
And we got one more person that we want to hear from too.
I got you. But there was a video that you shown that was of a movie of people like making a statement. In which, like, depictions in movies aren't like the most reliable historical evidence of a thing.
They hold credence. If I pull up a clip right now of a film from the 1950s and they're calling a black man a black Indian, but y'all are saying it's so far-fetched for us to identify.
I know, I get that, but like you can also pull up.
It's relative.
My bad. I'm my bad.
So with that being said, like, so Amistad pretty much just debunks your whole part, right? Like your whole story.
Or when they're like the white people build, I mean, like they say that they're Egyptians and they whitewash that.
Of the grandmother, the main reason I showed that is to prove the point that most Black folk in America, their ancestors told them that they were native, not that we were African. Even when they tried through that Tether Marcus Garvey, that scammer who was friends with the Klan, that scammer Marcus Garvey who's Jamaican, trying to convince us to go to Africa. Even our ancestors back then wasn't trying to go back to no Africa. I wonder why.
Hey, Mike.
So your ancestors were trying to go back to Africa.
It's not your turn. And when I gave you a chance to speak, you didn't have nothing to say, right?
So your ancestors didn't try to go back to Africa.
You interrupt me again, and when you get your own time to speak, you ain't got nothing to say. That's funny.
Hey, hold on. Let me moderate really quickly. So, Mike, I'm gonna give you 30 seconds. I think we kind of running on time. We're running out of time where we try and keep this under 3 hours. I'm gonna give you 30 seconds. Go uninterrupted, and then. One, I'm gonna hit you up on the back end, and we'll love to bring you on the panel in general. I feel like I'm familiar with your channel a little bit, so I think that like we're going to continue these conversations because there's a lot of growth within it, and we'll love to have you back up here.
It goes
30 seconds. You got it.
Every weekend I have discussions like this on my channel, so you guys feel free to click the link as well.
Okay, perfect.
But I find it interesting that we always have foreigners. I mean, I don't know his exact lineage, but he said he came from like the Caribbean or something. I mean, we have folks that are not foundational Black Americans that claim to have some vested stake in what we identify as, and that's just a phenomenon I cannot wrap my head around.
15 seconds.
What I want to say is the official numbers say 4% of African slaves came to North America. So where did all these black folks come from? We're not native. We're supposed to have came from Africa, but only 4% of us came through the
Mike, you can
transatlantic slave
talk.
trade.
Let somebody else get on the show.
And I appreciate, hey Mike, we appreciate you. It sounds like you and Alex have further future fun conversations. Appreciate you coming and tapping in on the show. Thank you.
Appreciate you, Mike. All right, yo, Mike came in with a little heat, didn't he?
I like it.
We got somebody else in the chat too, waiting to join. Wolverine Black Star. So Wolverine Black Star will add you to the stage. As Q mentioned, time is of the essence here. We're gonna close out in the next 3-4 minutes. So Wolverine, we're adding you to the stage. Welcome to the show.
Welcome. Thank you, my brothers. First of all, I'd like to say I love to see brothers having an intellectual conversation as yourselves. You know what I'm saying? It's a beautiful thing to see. All of y'all reflect intellectual identities of your own, and I like to see that. You know what I'm saying? So just, as black men, I salute all of y'all. You know what I mean? But I have to say, I've been watching this FBA movement for a minute, and I blame that demagogue Tariq Nasheed for this because he basically, it's always the failed R&B singers who want to be the demagogues of our society. You know what I'm saying? They want to be the teachers, they want to be the leaders. It's the failed R&B singers. You see what it is, right? Now, you notice most FBA people, they always have the same thing. They give you clips and little snippets of something to try to prove their point. Because
I think you just cut out, bro.
Oh, damn, the FBA must have heard you. Snipped your shit right in the middle of the sentence.
All right, you back.
We got him. Okay.
You back, Wolverine?
That was an ancestor.
X-Man, what's up?
Oh, damn.
Wolverine.
Check out this comment. I wonder if the caller is going to show anything to prove his point. How? You took up all the fucking time.
Bro, why you kind of pressed it? Like, the FBAs don't want to be counted as African, man.
All right, so
once again, thanks for the straw man, Trey. Appreciate it.
All right, so hey, it sounds like
to have a real conversation with you one day.
Hey, fellas, we got about 4 minutes on the clock. We got about 4 minutes left on the clock. We got after show conversations for this. Shout out Wolverine. It looked like he kind of disconnected. One, we appreciate everybody in the chat. We do this every Wednesday, 4:30. Every Wednesday, 4:30. To Be Fair show. Oh, my bad. I don't know. I said 4:30. I'm talking about To Be Fair show. 9:30 Eastern time. On Wednesdays. We do this every Wednesday. At the G Shit podcast and at the To Be Fair show YouTube page. Again, the panel. It's G up top. We got Johnny to the right. We got Trey, FBA's own. We have Alex. He said find him on GitHub. I'm Q, the host of the podcast. Again, run this up, share this. Hop into the comments, talk about it. Let us know how you feel. Let us know who had good, bad opinions. Who you did agree with, who you didn't agree with. Again, the point of all these conversations is called Unpacked for a reason. Everything that we're doing, we're trying to build to a point of understanding. Of course, there's going to be some parts where we get into the weeds and we're going to argue about things that might sound unconsequential at the moment, but it's all for a point of growth when it comes down to a future end goal, which is, in general, Black liberation, Black power, and Black freedom. And I think everybody here for reparations, so we'll probably add that one on the top too. So
that's why I gotta give my boy Alex a little bail. He still want reparations, so he can't be just 100% tethered, right? Like
Alex 10 toes down. Alex said, "You lucky A Black ain't on a panel today."
Half breed tether.
All right, fellas. We got 2 minutes left.
Hey, let me get
everybody can shout out something, and then we up out of here. Appreciate it.
I just want to shout out the fellas. Hey, Alex, Trey, great conversation. I appreciate both of y'all's perspectives. I think it was, a fair one. I think we got a part 3 that we got some more to unpack, but great conversation, fellas. Appreciate y'all.
No doubt. Make sure y'all follow at GSHPOD, where you can listen to the G Shit podcast, where we focus on family, friends, finances, freedom, and our future, and fuck everything else. Shout out to all the listeners.
At 4:30 Sundays, the To Be Fair show. Every Sunday, 4:30 live stream, similar to this, but it's in person. Me and the three homies. Is it three? Yeah. Alex be pulling up on us now too. Yeah, check us out. Again, we out. Big peace.
Peace.